All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Juicecast. This is our second podcast, and today we're going to be going over Sonic Adventure 2. So for those of you who don't know, our guests today, we have ST, or Saving Termina, who's pretty much on every time. Then we have JebTube and King K. I'll let them introduce themselves. Whoever wants to go first.
Hi, I'm JebTube.
You can probably go
Hi,
over
how
a
are
couple
ya?
things that you do.
Oh, I make video essays on YouTube. I'm quite famous for the essay too. In fact, so yay.
Yeah, I'm pretty much what he just said, so he did a pretty good job, so I'm just gonna ape that one.
He makes good Zelda stuff. Go look at it.
Very true. All right, cool. So for those of you who are new to the podcast, pretty much what we do here is we analyze a game and go into our own subjective experiences with it. These are our opinions, and there's no filters. So thank you, Raiko, for the sub. So we'll start with our personal history with Sonic Adventure 2. ST, you can go first.
So, I said it before in the Sonic Adventure 1 podcast, but I did play SA2 before 1 because it was released on the Gamecube before Sonic Adventure DX. So this was my first real 3D Sonic game. Not my first Sonic game, as that was Sonic 3, and then I played Sonic and Knuckles.
Yep.
But yeah, this was my official first 3D Sonic game, and I can't really remember what I thought about it at first, because that was, what, 2001?
Quite a while ago now, yeah.
Yeah, I was a youngin', so I don't really remember my first experience with it too well, but I remember enjoying it. I really liked, the Sonic and Shadow levels. I still do. And I can't remember if my thoughts on the Mech and treasure hunting level the Mech and treasure hunting levels were positive or negative. Now they're pretty positive overall, but back then I don't really remember how I felt about it.
Okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much to say about it as my first initial impression, because I can't for the life of me remember all the way back then.
Makes sense. How about you, King?
Well, technically my first Sonic game was Sonic and Knuckles. Just Sonic and Knuckles. I couldn't get past Mushroom Hill. I was really... There was no saving me back then, I don't know, but I think SA2 was like... It may as well have been my first Sonic game. I didn't finish any before then. But I finished that one and I was like, this is what video games are. That was like my reaction upon finishing it. I was like, this is what video games are. This is awesome. So I've just pretty much loved it since then. It's always kind of been my favorite. But yeah, honestly, my thoughts on it haven't really changed much at all over time. I still think it's pretty based AF.
Yeah.
As the kids say these days. I'm 23. I don't know why I said that. I'm not that old. I'm pretty young still.
You fit in with the crowd. How about you, Jeb?
Well, basically, I first played video games. This is my memory, of course. I played, like Namco arcade games on like those little plug and plays,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone remembers those. I'm sure you do. But then I basically met somebody who was pretty much my best friend at the time, and we played. Well, she showed me her GameCube and played this rad game called Sonic Adventure 2, and I played it. And I was like, well, okay, this is certainly different than Frogger.
I disagree.
And I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then that basically molded my entire life forever. And well, it basically led to me having forever low standards, as clearly, you know. Yeah, but it's just I don't know if that like really set precedent for what video games are, and so basically, I think I just desired to have cool experiences just like SA2. I'm kind of spoiling my opinion of the game right now, but yeah,
it's all right. Okay, so my experience with Sonic Adventure 2 is that it was my second full Sonic game. I had played Sonic 2 multiplayer at a friend's house or something, and I didn't really like trying to, like... I didn't really like it that much, because it was just Sonic 2 multiplayer, which isn't that bad in itself, but it was kind of whatever at the time. So then I played Sonic Adventure DX, and I really enjoyed that game as a kid. I have a lot of history with it, which, I mean, I went into in the last podcast. You can check that out at another time. And then in that game case, I lived right next to a Game Crazy, so I don't know if it was something that they put in there or what, but there was a little advertisement for Sonic Adventure 2 in, like, the back of the... It was like a little pamphlet, just a little paper that they put in those, which I really miss, by the way, when it comes to physical media. So I really like deluxe editions of stuff.
Back in my day, you know, we had cool-looking instruction manuals.
Right.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Stuff you take for granted, I guess.
I still remember the Super Mario 64 one. It was really cool.
Oh, yeah. So then I looked at that, and I was like, whoa, dude, there's like some other Hedgehog there, and he looks really cool, and yada, yada, yada. And I pretty much based my personality as a preteen on, like, Shadow as a kid and stuff like that, and made a bunch of comics with them. And
I always knew you were a cringe kid.
I was definitely a cringe kid. But
I was too.
I ended up really falling in love with that game, playing it for like hundreds of hours, like just the base game and the Chao Garden, forcing me to go back into like stages to replay them, and which I'm sure we'll get into later when we go over Chao. But yeah, I was a big fan of what that game was trying to do, and I am still a big fan of what that game was trying to do and succeeded in doing. So, spoilers, we all happen to like the game a little bit.
This is the old copy from ye old times. I don't know if someone spilled barbecue sauce on it or something. I don't know. But like, it's still... This is still the most cool thing I've ever seen. And, Oh, okay. Well, I guess we don't have a cool booklet anymore.
I'm very upset.
I don't have it.
You have let me down. That was very anticlimactic. I can't believe this.
Well, the disc is still cool, as GameCube discs tend to be.
I can't believe this.
So our next topic is, before we get into like the development and then the gameplay of the game, I wanted to go into modern reception and how it what our opinions of that is, because modern reception on 3D Sonic of old is that it was never good. Obviously, you got the IGN meme and everything like that. So
yeah. Sonic was never good.
So I just wanted to, I guess, take a little bit of a dive into our opinions on that, because I think that this game holds up in much more ways than just, like, we're nostalgic for it. But, hey, I could be wrong, so what do you guys think?
I think you are wrong. I think it is just nostalgia. That's what I think.
Okay.
There's nothing else. That's
I think that notion is incredibly dismissive, and I think you can very easily apply it to pretty much every game at the time, whether it's a transition to 3D from an established franchise or if it's even just a new 3D game at the time. And even if it's like 2001, at that point there's still some age in pretty much every one of its games until like Jack and Daxter, you know. And I just from what I've seen anyway, I never played it. And I think that there are some people out there who really, really kind of feel good putting this beloved classic down. And after all the controversy that there has been with Sonic, it's just a lot easier to do that than to go and try it with Mario 64 and Final Fantasy 7. The latter of which I actually really, really like, warts and all, just like this. So,
and I was gonna say,
I like both of them a lot, just like this one. So
those same two games you mentioned definitely have like the kind of, I guess, maybe not backlash, but same attitude the SA2 tends to get to, from my understanding.
Mario
I've seen
64,
it,
I mean, I don't think anything really compares to the Sonic Adventure games when it comes to people like really comparing them to modern games and putting them down in that way.
Yeah.
And I think this age of internet,
it is there,
I think this age of internet criticism has like kind of like, you see videos on Ocarina saying that it's just boring and nothing. It doesn't really get how Link to the Past was or anything. And you see it with Final Fantasy 7 and how it's janky, and you see it with Mario 64. You see it, but I feel like there's a real red carpet rolled out for it being on the adventure games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say: nostalgia is really not as powerful as people think it is. I don't. Nostalgia is the fuzzy feeling you get when you play a game and you remember your childhood, right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean. I don't know about your experience, but not every game I'm nostalgic for I even still like, even if I'm still nostalgic for it. So the argument has just never made much sense to me. Like, I'm still incredibly nostalgic for like Sonic Adventure, which I still like. This may be a bad example, but like, there's a lot of it that over time has just, I don't like anymore, like I did when I was a kid. And so I think it's just incredibly reductive to... I just think it's reductive, because everybody plays games at whatever point in their life that they do, and they feel the things they do, and I mean, if you want to be a stickler about it, I'm nostalgic for Sonic Colors, because I played that when I was like 11 years old or something. So, I mean, it's just preference at the end of the day. You play the games you play at whatever age you play them, and I don't think it really matters when you played them. Sure, maybe you'll be more forgiving for things that you're nostalgic for, but it's not always the case. And it doesn't really matter, because that's just what your taste is. You develop your taste based on the games you play and when you play them. And there's really nothing you can do about that. There's no way to remove yourself from your own experience. So there's just no point in trying. You're going to want the things that you want because you want them. And I don't think there's any point in making some grand conspiracy that everybody just loves the games that they love because that's when they were a kid, because those same people were also a kid at some point in their life, and all of their desires are also because those were the games that they wanted to play when they were a kid. This is such a flawed argument at its core that I cannot believe that it is still paraded around as fervently as it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the feeling of nostalgia, while valid, does not... It's like a separate thing from like something being a good game. Just because you're nostalgic, like I'm nostalgic for Glover on the N64. I'm not going to say that that's a good game. I'm nostalgic for like Frogger on PS1, for example, because I played it as a kid. It's the same feeling, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to go back to it and be like, oh yes, this is fucking amazing.
Hey guys, guess what? I was a kid when I played Sonic 06.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to say that that's some incredible game? No. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's always frustrated me. Always.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
And if you're nostalgic for one thing, well, on an alternate timeline, you're nostalgic for another thing. Who cares? What were you going to say, ST?
I was going to say, because we're still talking about how perception has conceived this game over time. I have dipped out of the Sonic fan base quite a long time ago. Not that I think that the fan base, there's a whole meme for the fan base too. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's terrible. Even though I think the modding / fan base part of it is actually incredible. Just in terms of how dedicated they are to this franchise and what they do, they make some really cool stuff.
I think they're more dedicated than their parent company right now.
Absolutely.
You'd be correct. Yeah. I'm way more versed in, say fan bases for Resident Evil or Zelda, but for Sonic, I have seen this game either it gets praised or it gets lambasted, right? I've always seen it as it's a 50-50 between people either really love this game or they hate it. I think the people that hate it are more of a vocal minority. I do still see typically more praise for the game, but
Well, yeah, it seems like generally you talk to, like, if you're outside of the fan base, right? It seems like if you were to, I've seen all the time, I'm talking to people, and then I start talking about Sonic, and then the first thing they say to me is, "Oh yeah, I played the Sonic Adventure 2 battle, and I really loved that."
Yeah,
That's like that's like the go-to, which says to me that in terms of general consensus, that's just kind of like, it feels like a very dedicated contingent of people that are that say that, oh, it was never good, or what,
it's
you know what I
bad,
mean? Like,
yeah.
Yep.
There is definitely a difference between like people in the fan base itself for any franchise, and then people that are either very casual or just, maybe they only played 1 or 2 games from a certain series, and
yeah.
what
Also,
they
you
like.
I mean,
have,
really, I
like-
think sometimes you just need to remove yourself from the like, because I think we can all get too close to something sometimes, but sometimes you just have to like observe it from on high,
Yep.
And
I
if we're all
also
nostalgic for SA2, to the point where everyone in the real world is just running around and just saying, "Oh yeah, I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and did the Chao Garden and all that fun stuff." I kind of have to ask, well, why are we all nostalgic for SA2 and not Heroes or '06 or any of these other games that were all on the same general time frame? I feel like there's some level of trying to undermine that core consensus in a way, to just say it's all nostalgic, as if everything is nostalgia, then nothing is really. It's like The Incredibles. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Juice?
I was gonna say, I also think that just like you were saying before, like the modern age of like video game critiquing and stuff like that, with how people are watching like YouTube videos, especially like around like 4 or 5 years ago, like there's a lot of Sonic Adventure 2 or just like Sonic Adventure videos in general. They were like, yeah, these games are trash. Like people like Pro Jared, obviously his Sonic Adventure 2 video is pretty popular. Well, I don't want to say popular, but pretty like infamous for that and stuff like that. And that opinion almost like it's like one person's opinion. Like I don't think, like I can't. Like I'm not gonna blame him. I'm not gonna blame any particular person for like a fan base not liking a game, because I think that's stupid. Because ultimately it's up to the fan base themselves.
I mean, one person
and those
can't
people.
do that.
But at the same time, I feel like that was like a big reason why so many people online in the Sonic community were like, those games were overrated. It was like stuff like that. And
I do
just
think those
spreading.
kind of people are whether you believe, the vocal minority or silent majority is a thing, I do think, like, it's something that one person does and say it affects several 100,000 people, the fan base doesn't consist of 1 million people, it's way, way, way bigger than that, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
Cool. So now that we went over that,
And that goes for any fan base, by the way, but yeah.
yeah, for sure. So now that we got that out of the way, like modern reception, because I feel like that's a good thing to get out of the way first. We can start to get into like the development and gameplay of this game, and kind of what the developers were thinking going into it, and maybe some struggles that they would have faced. So development goals. It's been documented that pretty much what they wanted to do is take what was successful in Sonic Adventure and just like cut things out and make what worked work better, and expand on the story, which is one of the biggest things that they wanted to do. And I think that they succeeded. So
Yeah, basically. I was playing Sonic Adventure, but whenever I made my video last year, and I remember playing through it, and I didn't even know what you just said. I didn't even really know that. I was never really aware of what they wanted to do or what they didn't. But I remember playing Sonic Adventure and being like, wow, the things that work best for me, and I just did this unconsciously. I didn't even notice that I did this, but I said, the things that really work for me here are Sonic, Knuckles, and Gamma. And then later on, I realized, oh, now I kind of understand how SA2 happened. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a pretty self-evident thing, even without knowing that. You know?
Absolutely.
I think if you just play
it's
both
like
games,
the it's I feel like it's the conclusion that most people come to when playing both games. I the story specifically, because like the story of Sonic Adventure is just like so all over the place for me.
It's
And
fragmented.
It's really fragmented, and it seems like sometimes a lot of the characters in it don't necessarily like know what's going on. I know that it's like a purposeful artistic decision, but for me, the story of Sonic Adventure 2 works so much better when you're like actually. It's just like two perspectives, and then the last story. It was made to be what it is, and it feels like it. Whereas Sonic Adventure just feels more scattered. And
It was very experimental, for sure.
Yeah, that's like one of my biggest criticisms.
I mean, I
of
really
Sonic
respect
Adventure.
what SA1 was going for, but I think
Yeah.
it also makes me appreciate how much SA2 really structured it much better. At least I think it did. And I can really admire that nowadays.
I know that the developers of this game also pretty much said that even though it wasn't like a huge team or anything like that, this was the time in their development team where everyone was on the same page and working to like for the same goals, essentially.
Yeah, that's a
As opposed to any other game that they had made before, this is the one where they all felt like they were at their best. That's also something that's been documented in interviews. I don't know if it was Azuka who said that or what, but it shows.
Well, and you know, this is the final Sonic game that's going to be on a Sega console, so they're really now more than ever is like a strive to really make this count. Even if because it's like we already knew, I think, believe in the development that we already knew they were going to make the transition to Nintendo and have Sonic on the GBA. There was going to be an advanced game, but they kind of went about it in this way that like, well, even if this is not our last game, there's definitely going to be some sort of change brought after SA2. So we really want to go for that same kind of wow, take the world by storm effect that we did with SA1, and we just want to make it something even grander in some sort of sense. And I feel like there really is a clearer focus with this one, even though the development was also pretty short, and there were pretty big changes in development too.
Yeah, lots of big changes. I mean, I don't know them all for sure, but obviously there's the Tails one where like the fan base was upset that Tails wasn't in the game, and then he got added as a mech stage later. There was the fact that like Sonic was in Skyrail and stuff like that, which you still have like
and I think I don't know at what point this would happen, but Shadow did not look the way he does. They changed that at some point.
Tedios or a reflection or whatever.
But it doesn't really seem to me like they were confused or there were troubles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems more to me like they decided, oh, this would be cool, if we did this instead, and then it sort of naturally evolved to the point that it did. Because I know people say that, because of that, the things that happen in development, certain characters don't feel like they fit as well as others, but it doesn't indicate to me like development trouble as much as like they kind of realized they could do something even better than their original plan,
Yeah, it seems like they were firing on all cylinders pretty much. It was just like idea after idea after idea. Let's fit it in, and and make it work, and they did that just fine. I'm so glad that Shadow has his design instead of the Terios design.
Yeah, I really don't like the original Shadow design.
Yeah.
I really don't like the nails of the bat design that we've seen.
Oh, I forgot about that
they made
one.
the right call on that one.
Game
'Cause-
development.
Yeah. And see, that's like, because this game was like slightly delayed, I also believe. And obviously it was still sort of, they had to rush it to an extent. There's no way they can actually just sit here like the clock is ticking for the Dreamcast, and well, it's already getting discontinued anyway, so they can't like just go and dump this in 2002.
Yeah.
But there's maybe I'm spoiling a bit here, but like you look at SA2 and a lot of the changes that happened over development don't feel like changes that are like unnatural or changes that are like super duper like, oh my god, we gotta salvage this game. Because the way that Shadow ends up being compared to his original concepts as Terios, the way that Rouge ends up being compared to her basic nails the bat design, I really think that they looked at how the story is, and they made some creative decisions there to really make these characters stand out, which is why I think that they fit in perfectly. But and there's just so much about these games and about like the lore and them going to San Francisco and stuff like that, where
Oh yeah.
this is a giant project at the time.
Yeah. I think the only thing that like got left out were, to my knowledge, a few scenes in the story that Maekawa definitely wanted to include in. I think there's a famous quote saying that if he could give an arm up to have a couple scenes that got cut from the game, then he would do that to put them back in. I don't know if they were more like flashbacks to give more context between Shadow and Maria and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
Around somewhere.
Which the game doesn't necessarily suffer from those scenes not being in there, because you still understand everything that's going on, but maybe it would have been nicer to have more of a connection between Shadow and Maria at the same time. So I kind of get what he's saying there. Who knows what was in those scenes, honestly. Interesting
Labor
to me.
text.
Okay, so I guess we can go over a few version differences. So
Wait, before that, I want to
oh sure,
say
go
something
ahead.
about the whole, the envisions that the developers have with, and then when the game comes out. I do think that for some games, the developer's vision and the execution of the game can either mesh perfectly, or there are differences that, despite what they say, you look at the end product, you're like, well, this is not, something doesn't add up, is basically what I'm saying. And I'm the type of person that believes in death to the Arthur, where the execution of the media overtakes what their original vision was if it wasn't conveyed super well throughout the product. I don't think SA2 is what that is, though. I think what they aimed for and what they wanted to do shows perfectly through their own execution. And, just it's how a sequel should be done. This, Resident Evil 2, I think, are great examples of games that are fantastic sequels.
Sonic Adventure 2 is what I go to say this is what a sequel should be.
I'll be honest with you. One of the only reasons, because I felt like Sonic Adventure discussion was a bit like, I don't know how to say it, but it was done a lot.
Yeah.
So I was thinking originally like maybe I should just make an SA2 video because that's where I had the most to say. But then I'm like, SA2 really is like, it necessitates a discussion of SA1 because of how much of a good, like, how much they took from that project and just decided they were going to try to do something better. And I think, especially with the state of Sonic now, I really wish that was a lesson they continued to take into the future.
Also, it doesn't help that there are some, there are the teams are different now.
Yeah,
Yuji
that too,
Naka
yeah.
isn't there anymore and stuff like that. So,
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's really hard to talk about SA2 without first having some baseline of SA1 there, just because of the fact that SA2 builds upon SA1 so well. I think it's important. I agree with that. All right. So as far as version differences go, obviously this game was originally released on the Dreamcast, and then the battle.
an amazing
version...
console, by the way.
I have one
So
back
much,
there.
so ahead of its time.
There were some cool games on it.
Yes. Then you have the battle port on GameCube, the Xbox 360 and PS3 ports, and the PC ports. Since the GameCube port, all the other ports were based on the GameCube ports and have broken it further, so people know. I think it's important for everyone to try to, if you can, at least once in your life, play the original Dreamcast version, since there's no like Dreamcast conversion mod like there is for the Sonic Adventure. But also, the port, like the modern PC port of SA2 is nowhere near as broken as like Sonic Adventure DX is. So
In game, anyway.
yeah,
Pretty funny.
the graphics on both of them are pretty broken. Like there's layering issues in a lot of the cutscenes, where in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, for example, I know this is the cutscene where like Rouge notices that there are emerald shards or something before she goes out to Mad Space. In the original version, it actually shows up on the screen that it's like the emerald readings and stuff like that. But in the battle ports, it's just not there. She's like, "All right, gotta go now," and you're like, "What?" So it's like stuff like
Sonic really has the worst fucking luck when it comes to re-releases. Like,
yeah,
like,
definitely.
they're
Sonic
all,
and
I can't
Ratchet are
think-
very bad.
I can't
Oh my
think
God,
of any
Ratchet.
that are just like unambiguously great. It's just kind of shit.
I don't think they've had like a. I think SA2 is probably the best port that they have, right? And it still has big problems as far as stuff
Other
like
than
that.
At least
Attack and
SA2
Pop.
Battle, I think, is probably their best. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it changed some stuff, but I think in terms of porting jobs, I think that's probably the best one they've done.
Oh yeah, and then obviously the sound effects were way louder on GameCube than they were at Dreamcast. Like the beeping, the jumping, and stuff like that. Originally, the character is supposed to have like 2 jump noises, and on GameCube they have 1, and they're louder. Then the PC ports make it even louder. So there's obviously stuff like that. But Battle did add a lot of stuff too. Like you have Chao Karate, you have the upgraded 2-player mode. So that's cool. Oh,
You
one thing I
have
forgot to mention.
the exclamation mark for
Oh
treasure
my
hunting.
god, so helpful. Going back to, I played this game on
Right,
Dreamcast and hunting with Rouge and stuff like that. I was just like, oh yeah, there's no exclamation mark. It makes up for it in a few places because in Security Hall, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can actually like just spiral upper in front of any of the safes and any of them will open without you having to like go all the way back to open the safes. And it's,
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm
just
gonna have to
do
try that.
Yep. So that's a thing.
Stellar did
Collision
not tell
detection
me.
is a little more broken on Dreamcast, I believe. So they fixed that up a bit. And yeah. So it's just like a bunch of like differences like that. So I just wanted to go over those real quick.
For the record, I've never played on a Dreamcast, actually. I've only ever played the Sonic Adventure 1 demo on a Dreamcast. That's it.
I haven't until
Interesting
recently
controller.
myself. Oh, one thing I will say is that on the Dreamcast, though, Sonic Adventure 2 specifically has a dead zone bug, so it can't like run straight without like it's really difficult to do it for some reason. So that's annoying as hell. But you can get a patch for it. I believe they're working on one now. Just to let you know. So that's one downfall of the Dreamcast version. Also, loading times if you don't have the SD card, CD-ROM emulator.
We're finally getting a patch 20 years later. Love to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, I really wish there was a definitive version of this game that I could recommend, but unfortunately there's no like Dreamcast conversion for the PC. But there are a lot of fixes. Like there are cutscene fixes. There are layering issue fixes. There are lighting fixes. Because the lighting and the fog effects of the Dreamcast version are, like, so good compared to the ports. They really broke those. So, hopefully eventually we'll have something like that. But until then, at least try the Dreamcast version.
It's a good thing that they never did that again.
Yeah.
Battle.
It's a good thing that
Thank
they've
God.
learned their lesson there.
Uh-huh.
Not to make today's podcast topical or dated, but
Man.
See, I think when it comes to versions of SA2, like, while I really like the things you can mod in with the PC version, I think, if I had to judge it just based on its own version, how it is when you buy it out of the box, then I would still say, the Dreamcast or maybe even the original GameCube port would be the better way to go. But
The convenience of the PC is just too great.
yeah, of course, but
No, it's
feel
great
like-
when it doesn't crash.
I feel like I shouldn't. I don't want to judge it. Feeling like, oh yeah, the PC has like mods and all that, and while that's good, but that is, I guess, third party
Even-
or fan support for it. If you see
don't
what I'm
know.
trying to say.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
it's
base it just
even
purely
to this
how it
day,
is.
Even to this day, I think the PC port of SA2 is like, in terms of like, I still can't get it to consistently stop fucking crashing.
Me neither. When it's
I have
loaded,
to
just
open
don't
it like
touch
2 or 3 times. Don't touch anything, and then maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's annoying as fuck.
I haven't had
Yep.
any of those issues, but I know it's been a thing.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm lucky.
I feel like if my computer goes into sleep mode at all, then I have to restart my PC before even trying to launch SA2. Otherwise, it'll always crash. So, that's a thing.
I have had to like 3 times now. There's like a guide out there that actually is dedicated to like going into the files and fixing the things that cause these crashes.
Oh.
And it works for me, and I haven't really had SA2 crash since, but there's still other various issues.
Yeah. It's just that's
And-
something that you shouldn't have to do.
I have
Yeah,
to change every time I want to play SA2. I have to change my monitor from 144 hertz down to 60 hertz, or else the game's at double speed. It's like,
if you can actually
Mine
do you have a
auto
GeForce
changes.
graphics card.
do I have
thing?
what now?
If you have an
What?
NVIDIA graphics card, you can actually set it to where SA2, the application, you have to like
Oh, I would love
manually
that.
force it to be 60 hertz. I had
Yeah, I
to
would
do that
love
because I
that.
was like, I just started it on my 144 hertz monitor here, like earlier this year. And I was like, what's going on? My game exploded.
Well, you're supposed to go fast when you play Sonic, don't you know?
Yeah. I mean,
The
this
speedrunners
is new
should use
speedrun
that.
tech.
I've seen
Yeah.
people try. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
Mine,
Which-
I guess, probably auto sets it to 60 because mine is 144 hertz and it just launches the game at 60. But I do have NVIDIA, so I don't know if it automatically just knows it runs at 60 or what.
I
I have
have-
NVIDIA, and it does not automatically know. So
I have
Then I don't
Radiant
know.
or whatever it's pronounced.
Uh-huh. I had to
Okay.
actually set that myself, and I got worried for a bit because I thought, I'm not switching my monitor to 60 hertz every single time I play this game. No way.
Mhm.
But yeah,
That's what I do.
old Sega PC ports are like, or old Sonic PC ports. Anyway, I don't know about other things. I swear, there's just some magical problem with like most of these, and then new ones you just have to like worry about like de novo and stuff. Oh wait, currently colors crashes, but anyway, it's just I always play it on PC now just because I can and because it's simpler, and I feel like I
Yeah.
kind of like how HD controls better anyway. But
Yep. Okay, cool. So I guess we can start actually talking about the game now. I think we're ready now that we got all
Video
that out.
All right, so Sonic goes fast, and that's it. The end.
Yep.
Pack it
all
home.
right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. So I have it laid out here. So we'll go over each of the gameplay styles first, and then maybe our favorite stages and least favorite stages from those. So I would say, as far as the speed gameplay goes, it's probably my second favorite gameplay type. I know everyone like runs to speed as their favorite and stuff like that, and it's really good. A lot of people say there's no exploration. I think if you compare it to Sonic Adventure 1, then I would say I agree, but I think the exploration mostly comes from how well you know the levels and
Yeah, there definitely
how
isn't no exploration.
this game lends itself really well to replayability, which will go into the ranking system. Like the ranking system in this game in general, especially when it comes to the speed stages, it's like, oh, okay, I completed them. I see like these different paths and stuff like that, and I got like a C or something like that, like in the story. I guess an example of this is I could say Radical Highway, for example. Like people say there's no branching pathways in these Sonic stages or in the speed stages. But in Radical Highway alone, let's say you get to the big bridge section, for example, you have like maybe 4 different paths that you can take right there. If you take the ramp before them and actually perform the trick correctly, then you go up high. If you fall down low, then you have to slowly like make your way and then like somersault through those 2 rollies, whatever they are, and then have to fight the jet or whatever if it's there. You could take the path where you actually, because the game teaches you start by grinding on a rail, like right at the start of the level. If you take the very top, or if you hit the springs on the bottom before the bridge, then you can actually just take the rails down and skip all of it. That's the fastest way. So right there, it's like there are multiple pathways right there that you can get just from replayability and from actually like mastering the stage and controls. So I think the game
I
does
always
that
had
very
fun
well.
messing around with stuff like that. Like, I think there's plenty to explore in the levels. It's just not as like, I think SA1 maybe is just more naturally freeform. And I certainly noticed that when I go back to SA1 now, where like the levels feel a little more like naturally open, whereas
Yeah.
SA2, a lot of the secrets you have to go out of your way for, and then go back to the main path. But there's certainly a lot of stuff like in Radical Highway, and I think Green Forest has a few cool split paths you can do and some extras. But I guess it's not. It's like it's more for me about replaying the level and trying to get a good rank. So I guess it's more speed focused than Sonic has been up to that point. But I don't think it entirely abandons the precepts that the previous games established in terms of like you can go find ring boxes and stuff, and like Metal Harbor has a lot of like you could say it's just a straight line, and for a lot of it is, but there are cool little like life boxes hidden around like that you can find in different paths. And then the thing that kind of cements the gameplay style as my favorite is that there's a lot of stuff like in Metal Harbor at the end where if you just play out of your fucking mind, you can get to the top of the rocket and get more points.
You have like
and
so
that shit
many
just feels
paths there.
really good, you know? It feels really good to do that in the same way that it feels really good to learn the levels in the previous games. So I think it maybe focuses less on stuff that people might have wanted in terms of like exploration, but I think that it makes up for it in being like the most fast-paced, most like you have to learn the most about the levels to do them well, and the ranking system really just wraps it in a neat little bow. So
yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that SA2 a lot of the draw for people who have it as their favorite, it comes from the ranking system. And I think that it's a lot more of a fun, intuitive way to play it than SA1, where you just play the level 3 times so you can get the A mission. I mean, you can do the level faster or something. I feel like SA2, I know that for like a regular first time playthrough, maybe it doesn't matter to people, but I really am not. I'm not one with the mindset that these levels are just linear hallways with non-gameplay. I just can't agree with that, because for one thing, even without the ranking system, you have to actually think to get through some of these levels. obviously in SA1, I feel like the appeal of SA1 is that the Sonic levels that are there kind of feel a bit more organic. They kind of feel like they have some really notable areas. You don't really get islands like you would in Emerald Coast, or rooms quite like you would in Lost World. Sorry, title slipped me because the game. But in exchange, SA2 really kind of focuses more on that whale chasing sort of exhilaration, and makes Sonic more of an acrobatic character. And they were showing this off as soon as the first trailer, with him doing like a kick flip, running from a gun truck, which you don't actually do in the game, but still. It's and that's why City Escape is just such a great level, because it introduces you to this sort of concept, and that's what you're basically doing for the whole game. And it feels good to be able to do that better and better with the ranking system. I feel like for a first time playthrough, it's moments of exhilaration, and I don't think it's really like lame or stale at all. And then for anyone who
Sonic
enjoys
has always
that,
kind of had set pieces, like
Absolutely.
It's always been part of his appeal.
Since the first loop-de-loop in Green Hill Zone.
It's not even something that they use to like artificially make the 3D games better. I think that applies to the classic games too. I think that it's the same sort of feeling I get when I outrun the camera in Chemical Plant Zone. I think that's the same sort of feeling I get when I play, like Wing Fortress Zone and go through its, perilous traps and stuff, which, there just is Sonic levels by nature, I think aren't meant to be formulaic, just a bunch of slopes and exploring every single time. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Stu, do you have anything to add before I chime in, or?
No, you guys pretty much got it.
Yeah.
I'll say more when we talk about the specific gameplay styles themselves, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're doing now, is just each of the gameplay styles. So we're going over the speed one right now.
I guess for speed, I don't really have much to add.
Okay.
I did say in the SA1 podcast that I did prefer Sonic's gameplay there a bit more than here.
Mm-hmm.
But the speed levels, they're fun. They're probably my favorite parts of the game. But yeah, no, you guys pretty much said
I
what
think
was
something to add is that the levels for speed stages in SA2 compared to SA1, I think, are just more consistent. Like, I have more problems with stages in SA1 than I do in SA2, I'll say. Like, maybe SA1 has some highs that I like a little more, but
yeah,
I wouldn't really, I'm trying to think, 'cause you said we might talk about, our favorite or least favorite stages.
Yeah.
And for speed stages, it's like some of them feel like I don't like them as much as others, but there are none that I point to that are Final Chase is pretty bad, but it's not I think in SA1 there are a lot of stages. There are a lot of stages like Skydeck and maybe Casinopolis, which are a bit they're a bit different in a way that kind of bothers me. Whereas in SA2, the worst I can say is that Final Chase is just a bit jank. It's not I don't know. You know what I mean? They feel a little more consistently fun.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Stuff like Skydeck in Sonic Adventure is one that kind of bothers me a little bit too. But yeah, Casinopolis, and then
and also that one part in for fuck's sake, what's the name of it?
Ice
The
Caps?
second level in SA1.
Oh, Windy Valley.
Yeah, Windy Valley. The one section where you're just running in straight lines. That's literally straight lines.
Yeah.
When people talk about SA2 straight lines, that's what I think about, is the end of Windy Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really what I see in SA2,
Yeah, there's like just like the classic games. I feel like that Sonic Adventure 2 is still like it's faithful to those in the sense that you have multiple pathways where if you know the game well and you're taking the ramps and you're being cool and everything like that, you're gonna get through the stages faster and it's gonna look better. And if you don't know what you're doing, then it's gonna take longer and you're not gonna have as much fun. And the game like I think what it does best is it wants you to replay those stages over and over again with the ranking system, with its 180 albums to collect and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess we can get into our favorite speed stages and least favorite. I know you said that you don't like Final Chase, but it's actually my favorite speed stage. It used to be my least favorite until I got really good at it, and then it became my favorite because...
Yeah, I think it's just the damn tubes. If you could get a wrangle on the tubes, then I probably would like it, you know?
Yeah. They're very specific. I'm not like for like a casual player or someone who hasn't like meticulously like studied that stage and has gone through everything, it's going to be a pain in the ass. Especially on GameCube, the tubes work even less than PC.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like you have to approach each tube very specifically to get like max speed up them and jump off them with your gravity resetting at the right times. Once you get a flow in that stage though, it's like it's unlike no other stage. It feels really
I mean,
good.
I would say that like Final Chase is probably my least favorite speed stage, but I can still have fun with it in moments where I like a lot of the tubes where they're not. I think the vertical tubes are the ones that annoy me the most because they're the ones that give me the most problems. But when they're like horizontal-ish and you're going in a straight line, they're pretty fun to like work with. I like those sections a lot.
Yep.
I can physically like see a remake of SA2 happening. Well, okay, in an alternate timeline, where like Final Chase is actually this like banger level that's just polished, and you have this very nice rhythm to just twirling around these tubes, and a proper player like can just do that and it's so fun, and a regular player doesn't feel too like overwhelmed by getting pulled left and right. Or like I remember there's one part that I just always think is probably gonna piss a first time player off, because it did to me. Is like there's this part where there's like a vertical tube, pretty long vertical tube, and you just are there, and there's like meteors, and then they have this, you know, those gun robots that go and then shoot the bombs at you.
The one right after the boost ramp, and then this one, and then you have to go up the double one.
And it's like any normal players just can be like, all right, whoa, I can't, like, you know. And so it's like that's definitely my least favorite speed level. My favorite's perhaps obviously City Escape, but like
it's a good one.
It's not to say I don't like to say that, because it makes it sound like every other level just doesn't compare to the highs of City Escape. When in fact I think that Metal Harbor is, you know, just about as good. Love Radical Highway. Yeah, I'd probably.
I feel like City Escape is probably my favorite too. Although I actually really, really like Final Rush, like a lot.
Yeah, it's
me
good.
too.
Especially once I learned what you can do with the vertical rail things, where if you jump off them into the air and there's hidden shit up in the air if you do it with the momentum. That shit just like completed the stage, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like so fun to jump on those little rail things into the air and go really high and skip parts of the stage. And it's clear that they intend for you to do that because they put boxes up there, or like capsules. So
yeah, and honestly, when I was a kid and I discovered shortcuts so you can do, like, not even like speed running, just jump off here and I can skip to this area, or there's like that hidden really long rail that goes down to this lower area if you go to the right from these artificial chaos at some point in the level. And when I found that as a kid, I was like, holy shit. I feel like that's the kind of stuff that people are looking for, you know, when they say that these stages are too linear. I feel like Final Chase is perhaps the most expansive speed stage, and it's
Rush?
Final Rush.
Okay.
Sorry, Final Rush, and it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a very cool set piece. That level.
I think maybe in
love the
terms of like
pathways.
the pure design aspect, because Final Chase in terms of execution might be my least favorite, but in terms of level design, I think the one I always think of as being particularly annoying is Pyramid Cave, where
You
I
don't
just don't
speedrun
really
that game?
know. Yeah, if if you're playing it normally, it just feels really like I don't know what they were thinking when they made that stage. You know, it feels a little like I don't know where some of these ideas came from, is what I'll say. Like, it feels a little antithetical to what the rest of the game is like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the fact that you have to go like all the way down this path just to like grab a thing to throw on the
Yeah,
the
it feels like
panel
you're
and
playing
stuff
a
like
different game for a bit, and it's always been jarring, even when I was a kid.
that. Also, there's some weird thing like remember that section in Pyramid Cave where you have to like somersault under 3 of the things
Yeah.
before the dash panel takes you. I don't know what I mean, I know there are rails on the side that you can like slowly go on to get to the next one instead of somersaulting. What is the point of those? Does anyone really know? Is there anything?
I've never understood that. As I was
Yeah.
like,
I've always
Yeah,
found it
it's
really
really
funny.
weird.
Now, as a speedrunner, that stage becomes a lot more fun because of the fact that you can skip
Yeah,
both of
because
the
you can skip all the
doors.
stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no more pace breaking. So that's cool. I City Escape is really good too. I feel like from pure level design, it has to be one of the best. It's so good
Yeah.
how the game teaches you like the different things you can do as soon as you fall off of the board. Like the first place it teaches is like go up the stairs, you can grind on this rail, you can get up to this ledge from these boxes. Here's your first enemy. Now I'm teaching you that you can keep your momentum to like get this ring box. I'm showing you this metal box that you cannot like break yet, but you're gonna have to come. You can come back later and break it, and it's gonna do something. Like the game shows you so much, and it just like it's like in your mind. It's almost, I don't know. It's so good.
and we're gonna give you rails that are not above do or die sections.
Yeah.
That you can
Yep.
can eventually figure out you can grind on, and it's cool because it's in a city. So if you actually live in California, you're like, holy shit. you know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a really cool feeling.
I think my favorite speed stage would be Green Forest.
Mm-hmm.
I really like just the level in general. It's fast paced. I guess it is a little linear compared to some others, but that doesn't bother me. Like the non-stop action, I really like. I also like the stage thematically. There's a lot of agency within the story of when you get to it.
Oh, it's so cool.
Of like
Someone who
and
doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, and the music. It's one of my favorite tracks in the game personally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's combined it's a solid level that's fun, lots of fast-paced action, some decent platforming, the agency within the story itself, and the music to complement it. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah, if you're going through that stage for the first time and you see this timer, you don't really know how much time it's going to take you to get through that stage
Mhm.
before the island blows up. Also,
Yeah,
that
and-
stage itself, while it is linear, it still has a lot of like
Oh yeah, it still has
branching paths
pathways.
that you can take by doing
Yeah.
harder platforming tasks, like to
Mhm.
get to the Mystic Melody, for example. Which is like, okay, these platforms are like off to the left, and you have to like jump really high to go get them in these more unsafe jumps and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It has a few like hidden ring boxes and stuff on the tree
and
climb.
using things like spin dash jumps and whatnot. Yeah, it's fun.
And I think things like that, things like spin dash jumping, and honestly, you just look at stages like Metal Harbor and Green Forest, and I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna do this your first time playthrough, but like I feel like you naturally do feel the inclination to see how far you can push it and see if you can jump, if you can skip this loop that you see Sonic run through by jumping over to the other branch.
I did as a kid.
Or Yeah, and then there's like, I love this part where you just bounce off springs and then he gets stuck to a little vine and does a bungee
Yep.
jump. And
Yeah.
you see down there, for future reference, you see, oh, well, there's a balloon down there. So how do I get that? If you hold A and then release at the right time. And it's this very nice feeling when you do it.
Yeah.
And then at the end of a level, there's the crumbling,
Yeah, the footholds
the
crumble.
footholds, and then you can go across that faster and get more points. And as a kid, you literally like, you see that and you see, oh wow, I did dog shit at this.
And if
Well,
you
it's
do
kind
that,
of
you get, like,
hilarious to me
you
how
get an A
easy
ranking.
it is. How easy it is to get the top spring nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, it was, I don't know what it was. It was almost impossible to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what my problem was. I'm gonna, like,
Yeah, it's you just jump on one platform from where you are, and then you just jump to the.
but
spring.
it made it such a memorable section
Yeah.
because I always struggled there.
Mhm.
And I have to say, you know, this is a little weird, but anytime I watched Tarzan,
Mm.
I thought about grinding on the side rails in Green
Oh.
Forest, and it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
We're gonna see
And
Tarzan
just the
doing
music.
that.
This is another thing. We're not at the music discussion yet, if there is one, but like, I think it's incredibly disingenuous to discount music when it comes to someone's enjoyment of a stage, because when
Yeah.
you're playing Green Forest,
The
Island's
music
about to
pumped you
blow
up.
up, Won't Stop Just Go is playing. It's like,
Yeah.
that is so integral to the experience, and there's just nothing really like that in SA1. There's like brief snippets where you're going down the buildings and stuff, but the whole
Yeah.
stage,
The whole stage
Just
is
like
a
this.
thrill ride.
it's pretty intense. Yeah.
I mean, it's like specifically designed for when Sonic is like jump, like at the start of Green Forest. It's like you have the drum roll, and then he jumps, like that's
Mhm.
before a lot of that kind of audio technology even existed, and it's still in the game. I don't know what my least favorite speed stage would be though. It's kind of hard for me to say.
Mine would be Skyrail, and I'll explain why. So, I am not a big fan of just the rail grinding in SA2. You know, I especially don't like how janky jumping from rail to rail tends to be sometimes.
It's broken in a few scenarios, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know in some spots it's fine, but in others it's not. So that's inconsistent. And I don't know, like there's nothing inherently offensive about Skyrail, but most of the stage, or a good amount of it, you're grinding on rails, and while it looks visually cool, it's the rail grinding isn't what I enjoy about the speed stages mostly.
Mhm.
See, I think SA2 is when I did rail grinding the best. So it's because you actually have to balance yourself to get speed.
Yeah.
Unlike in
Well, yeah,
Heroes and
I like
Shadow,
that
where you
element.
just mash B and you go. Like, sure, it might be more consistent, but as someone who's going to replay the levels a lot, which the game pretty much tells you to do, I will learn those things in the stage, get better.
I
at
think
them.
I gained a lot more appreciation for Skyrail when I learned that there are a lot of sections where you can skip the grind rails, but like not as a speedrunner, but like they clearly
They're
put
intentionally.
bumpers there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They put bumpers on top of the pumpkins, and I'm like, oh, so they kind of expect that one day you're gonna try and do this, and that's when I gained a lot more respect for that level.
Also, like when you're grinding down the like not even jumping earlier, like in like we do in the speed run, for example, to land on that pumpkin. If you continue going down that rail, there's a beetle that you jump off the rail, homing attack the beetle, and then you're on that pumpkin with the thing of rings.
Yeah,
It shows you that you can get to the other pumpkins. They have collision. You just spin dash jump. The developers know you can spin dash jump like this. There are multiple like scenarios in the levels that are clearly meant for this. So the developers
And
knew
what I
they were
do
doing.
like about Skyrail is how like there's a lot of different pathways you can take to reach to different things. That is a part of the stage I do like. But I don't know.
Skyrail's also kind of an odd one because it's probably like the shortest level, like
Yeah.
of these speed levels. And it's like, and a lot of it is, you know, bouncing them a little bong 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 things, and then grinding. And I actually had someone, one of my pals, told us yesterday that he thinks actually Skyrail might be his least favorite speed level, and I was like, that's kind of interesting.
It's certainly not one of my favorites, but
Yeah.
I probably had a lower opinion of it when I didn't know you could do all that stuff. So
Also, the bounce bracelet, someone just brought this up in chat, is really fun for rail grinding and stuff like Final Rush.
Yeah,
The bounce
Shadow
makes rail
doesn't have
grinding.
it.
Unfortunately.
yeah, I really wish I really wish Shadow had a bounce bracelet.
See, maybe
It's
if
really
I played that
weird.
stage with Sonic, I'd have more fun.
It's really weird to not,
Yeah.
because the bounce bracelet's so fucking fun to play around with, and
Yeah.
the fact that Shadow doesn't have it really detracts from his levels.
It's fun until you mistime a light speed dash and you die. But
Yeah,
Does Shadow have any I
Nope.
don't think he has like alternative like.
See, he doesn't, and I actually thought that it would be cool if he gets another jump in the form of Chaos Control.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And I think that would have been such a cool little inclusion if his levels were designed around that at all. Because
Yeah.
you always see him using it in the cutscenes and stuff like that, but you never get to use it when you actually play as Shadow, so...
If we had a good remake, maybe we could do something like that.
that is
Yeah.
one thing, real quick, I want to praise 06 for, is how they made Shadow similar to Sonic, but also different by using his chaos
Mhm.
abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I
yeah.
just wish they would do more of that.
And I'm pretty sure actually all across SA2, each pair of characters, there will be one that has one more upgrade than the other. I'm pretty sure Eggman has the armor that Tails doesn't.
Yep.
And
Knuckles,
Knuckles has
sunglasses?
the air necklace that Rouge
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah, Rouge
Which
has...
Rouge gets something that the
Yeah,
sunglasses, I
in,
forget.
in Security
Yeah.
Hall, there are 2 metal boxes. Once you learn the Mystic Melody, you can jump across platforms, break the 2
Oh,
metal
yeah,
boxes,
yeah, that's right.
get
That's
the Scouter, the Vegeta Scouter.
right.
And
Um,
it's interesting that the ones who have the extra ability are the ones who weren't rushed in. But I've always found that kind of perplexing that they never just bothered. Like, hey, here's Rouge with the air earring, or
Yeah.
or Shadow with the. Well, honestly, Shadow bouncing around does sound kind of funny, but like, still, I want it. You know.
I
'Cause
think if they were
it's so
given
fun.
an extra stage to, because you also have to take into account that they were, while some of the upgrades you do have to go back for, some of them would be like if he got Chaos Control or something like that, and the earlier levels weren't designed for it or something like that, I feel like they would have to have a level. They have to build upon their own mechanics, and you don't know if they're going to play Hero Story first or if they're going to play Dark Story first. So they kind of have to like introduce those upgrades little by little to make sure that you understand how the level design or like how those things are going to work in the next level. So if they gave Shadow like another level in between there and then gave him a Chaos Control, for example, or a bounce, and then in another level or in that level and then in the next level it kind of required the use of that, then that would work. But there's only so many upgrades that they could probably stack, unless it's one of those things where it's just like in Radical Highway somewhere, like Flame Ring is, and you can go back for it, and then it's just going to make the levels more fun. They could have done that too. I just, like I said, Shadow only having 4 stages probably is the reason for that. Is what I would assume.
Mhm. By the way, I have the soundtrack going myself. I don't know where you're at in this
Oh.
little cast here, but I'm listening to Chao music right now.
Same. I got Chao Race.
Good.
All right, so I guess we can go into hunting now, which is my favorite.
My man,
So-
my man.
it actually?
Yes.
Nice.
Hunting is my favorite. It was
My
not my
man's
favorite
nuts.
for a while, but now it is. Which is why replayability in this game is so important. Hunting. So I have a few gripes with it, which I guess I'll get out of the way first, and that is that I think I'm not one of the people who thinks that the Emerald Radar should have been as good as it was in SA1 from the start, but I do think that there should have been an upgrade for it for the bigger levels,
Mad Space.
like Mad Space.
Yeah, it's probably the best, because I've always thought that it would be better to have the SA1 radar for the big levels. So
Mhm. Because having
it would have just made sense as an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying in the SA1 discussion, is because like I love the fact that it's like kind of nerfed and that you have the hint system for the smaller stages, but I think that system kind of breaks when you get to the bigger stages. And it would be too easy, in my opinion, to have like all the blips going on at the same time in the smaller stages, just like I think the Knuckles stages in SA1 are way too easy, especially with Tikal. So
I think there's, the more I think about it, I feel like there's some compromise that could be reached that just didn't. Because you think about it, and they clearly, this is like, some people are like, what were they doing? But it's like, it was very obviously an attempt to make these harder. Because in Knuckles, it was just mindless in SA1. But not only is the radar, what it is in this game, and each hint is prioritized to one emerald. So, it'd be kind of weird to be getting hints for all 3 of the emeralds on the radar. But that could be, debated about for a while. But then you also think about the fact that, the stages are bigger and the emeralds are not bright green giant glow sticks anymore. So, it's kind of interesting. You feel like if they maybe ticked one of those knobs and then not the other, maybe it'd be a little less frustrating to people. I personally believe that if you use the hints, then it usually ends up fine. But obviously there's some...
You can't get an A rank.
I wanted to get this out of the way first. If you think you can't get an A rank when getting the hints, I have news for you. Okay.
Yeah, you
It's
can.
very possible.
You can
Number
read multiple.
one,
I can
that's
read
a
like
lie.
6 hints and get an A rank. So have fun. It's just replayability. If you learn to move fast in the stages and you learn what the hints even mean, and because you're
It's almost
replaying
like
the
it's the whole
stage.
point.
Oh,
And for-
whoa! Is that the game's design? I don't know.
For a first time playthrough, people say, well, I can't get an A rank. I just got an E rank.
Of course
not.
not.
Why the fuck are you trying to
But
get
I'm like-
A ranks on your first time playthrough for fucking?
Yeah, like just play the game.
I think
Right.
there's definitely room to criticize the treasure hunting in SA too, because obviously it was a problem for a lot of general people. But I think part of it really is like just not really wanting to play the stage in the first place. You don't want to use the hints. You feel dumb for using the hints, even though you don't feel dumb for telling you this way.
Yeah.
Right.
And in the first place, my ideal Knuckles stage would just be more linear stuff like Cannon's Core, because I just think that makes.
I
bit
like
more
those
sense
two.
for
I like
people.
those two.
But I mean, I don't know. Like, I think there was actually a lot of thought put into the Knuckles and Rouge stages, and I just can't. I can't really look at these and just they're trash. All of them. All
Yeah.
of these stages, they suck.
I think
I
some
don't
of the
know.
hints could definitely have been better. They're like some
What
of
do you
them
mean you
are
don't love the
actually
reverse
broken.
Zenitsu's?
Some of them are legitimately broken, which is a criticism that I will say is like some of the hints don't actually lead to like the right places because they're broken from the port. So that's a problem. And also mistranslations.
Yeah,
Like-
I wonder, is it a lot better to get the hints in Japanese? Because I have no knowledge of this.
I would
now.
assume so, but also like some of like this. I forget there's one like that says like something about a wall in egg quarters, and it has like nothing to do with where the piece is at all. And as a speedrunner, it's just like, okay, I know that this hint leads to exactly where this piece is, but if you're just like playing the game casually, you're like, what? I mean, I guess you can
Mhm.
get
Just
another
says
hint at
wall.
that rate. You could get another hint and it would give you more clues, and maybe that one would be translated correctly. But yeah, there's just like little things like that that definitely plague the system. Yeah. But hunting is my favorite just because of how well you can have those characters move throughout the stages. It just
I think
feels
it's
so
just
good.
incredible. It's just incredible that I still don't know where every emerald shard is. Like, there's so many of them. I mean, it's not incredible for speedrunning, but like, it's incredible that I've played the game so much and I still don't know where they all are. There's just so many of them that like, even if you do run into the same one every now and then, it feels like you get a completely different experience every time you play it. And,
There are 1024 sets for first load on every stage, so there's quite.
And every time you
variation.
play a Knuckles or Rouge stage, you're learning how to get around faster, how to it's the core of Sonic. You learn how to do it faster, you know?
Mhm.
Every single
I always
gameplay style in
appreciated
this
that.
game, every single gameplay style in this game is like that, and that's why I like it so much. You
Yeah.
can keep your momentum and flow by replaying the stages, and that's not something I can say for every Sonic game out there. So
I just think that in this game, people often say that the treasure hunting and mech shooting has nothing to do with what Sonic's about, which I guess, you know, on surface level you could say that, but I think in this game they really made an effort to make all three adhere to some core principles of the game. So it never really feels to me quite like Amy or Big in SA1, where I'm kind of like, I don't really know, you know, what I'm doing.
they do, and that's why I said what I said, is because the common opinion is like, those things aren't like Sonic. I'm just like, well, what do you mean? Like, you keep momentum throughout the stages by knowing them better, and you do better in them and go faster when you do.
And I just think Knuckles. This is literally the best controlling Knuckles in anything, even the
easily.
two games.
I agree wholeheartedly there.
Yeah.
I like his flow, or just like the treasure hunting character's flow in this game. Like, when I go back to SA1, I'm like, oh, I can't drill dive to get down to the stage faster. I can't then glide and like instant punch to like get speed, because in SA1 like punch is like a 3-hit, like just like kind of slows you down kind of thing. In this game, you can. It's like built around keeping your momentum throughout the stages, even if they are like linear hallways for some of them. Like they're. I don't mean to say like the stages are linear hallways. I mean, like, you can still control the character very well and fast through those linear hallways, like in what's the stage? My least favorite hunting stage,
Aquatic
Death
Mine?
Chamber.
Death Chamber.
Yeah, like you can still move fast through Death Chamber, for example, by learning how to like jump, doing like the climb cancels and stuff like that, by jumping at the end of the climb, gliding, and then punching to keep your momentum onto the next platform. And stuff like that you'll naturally learn through playing the stages.
Just imagining Knuckles punching at random in his day-to-day life just to move slightly faster. Could see that.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting, actually. It was through speedrunning the game, or pseudo speedrunning in my case, where I actually felt that controlling the treasure hunting characters was the best part of it, compared to controlling the speed characters or the shooters, because there's a lot less jank. The jank really comes from a camera, honestly, and also the same button syndrome. So like sometimes you'll look at a hint that you didn't want to look at, and you're like, oh. But like the camera, honestly, in this game, I don't really have too much of a problem with. I don't like the fact that that you move it in the other character stages and it just moves right back the second you start moving. That sucks. But like, and the treasure hunting, that's like really the only time you super duper need the camera, and it can kind of be annoying in like Aquatic Mine. But most of the time, you know, I think it's serviceable enough for a game of this time period, and certainly, you know, on the Dreamcast they could have fixed the C stick onto the other consoles, but you know, but it's just I think really they have made Knuckles and Rouge feel exactly like how I think they should be playing, and part of that makes the objective not really much of a problem to me, you know, because this is
They also, it feels like they have their own identity, because in SA1, I'm gonna be honest with you, Knuckles and also kind of Gamma felt like tech demos, like they're prototypes almost, where like they don't entirely feel like their own thing, but they kind of are, because they go through a lot of, they don't feel like they have their own stages. So it's
Except for
really
Red Mountain.
noticeable.
Red Mountain, I
Yeah.
feel like works well for Knuckles.
That one does. But it feels really significant that they have stages that are designed for them
Oh
because
my
it works
God.
so much better.
I cannot express that enough. That was one of like the biggest things I kept talking about in Sonic Adventure when I was discussing. I was like, God, this would be so much better if these characters had stages that were dedicated to their playstyles, and they just don't.
Because you can clearly tell now what the point of the gameplay style is. Because I know, like, there's some stages I don't like. Like, Aquatic Mind pisses me the fuck off. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, and it's mostly because the camera sucks and it's so fucking cramped. And it like Death Chamber at least feels like I have some breathing room with the camera a lot of the time, and it's not that. Like, Aquatic Mind feels like it's just too much. Like, it's I don't know what it is. It's always bothered me, and the fact you have to keep going to the back to the central room. It reminds me of Skydeck, and I hated Skydeck for Knuckles and SA1. I don't know.
Oh, that is horrible.
But then you play something like Pumpkin Hill, or you play like Meteor Herd, or honestly, in terms of level design, I'll even throw Mad Space in there, because I think the problem with Mad Space is the gravity, not necessarily the fact that it's a big level, because I actually like the big levels. I think they're fun, because it showcases in every level that the point is you explore around, and there's so much to see and so much to remember. And once you you explore around the first time to find out where the emerald is, and it's a fun treasure hunt. But then you get better, and then you find out ways to speed around as fast as you can. And it just feels really good. And then that's when you understand the point of the gameplay style. So I feel like it just, in SA1, I barely felt like it functioned like correctly, or like I didn't understand the point of it. But then in SA2, I completely, like, it just snapped because the levels were designed around them. So it was just a lot more fun.
Yep. Mad Space is probably my least favorite hunting stage, along with Death Chamber. Just speedrunning it is like a huge pain.
Yeah.
That's just my bias.
Mad Space feels like it falls in the same category of Final Chase for me, where the level design itself is fine, and I like it a lot. It's just there's a mechanic in it that doesn't work the way it should, and is really annoying. And that's why I'm always like, I don't have a problem with Mad Space conceptually. It's just not the way gravity works is infuriating. So like it's kind of like I that's also why I've wanted kind of a remake for a while, because I think they could definitely fix that. But
that's one of the stages that I would really appreciate having an upgrade for the radar, is Mad Space.
Yeah.
And that's when like, if they ever made a remake, like, okay, they have to fix Mad Space. Surely, they can't, but, never mind. It's, I don't know. And that's comparatively between Mad Space and, like, Death Chamber. I think I would agree that Death Chamber is my least favorite. Either that or Aquatic Mind, because I'm gonna be honest, Aquatic Mind kind of pisses me off sometimes too. But
Yep.
it's not like half the treasure hunting stages are bad, so therefore the gameplay style is like not good.
Yeah, I think
Well,
it
it's
just
just-
makes more sense when there's more freedom, like you're in the open air, rather than you're stuck in confined claustrophobic rooms. Like, I think it just makes more sense when you're in somewhere like Pumpkin Hill or something.
Because
Wild
I feel like
Canyon,
Mad
Dry
Space is like
Lagoon.
an easy fix, whereas Death Chamber, just by its design, is so labyrinthine in a not fun way.
Yeah.
I really, by the way, I'm just gonna say that Meteor Herd, barring some shitty hints, is absolutely my favorite level, no question.
I like Meteor Herd a lot.
I also really like Meteor Herd. So,
But it kind of like drives me up a wall when people say that it's as bad as Mad Space. I'm like, no.
No, they just
No
like
way.
in their brains, they're probably just like space is bad hunting.
yeah,
space
there's
bad. That's-
Mad Space on just doesn't really work properly. I don't know. Meteor Herd actually, like, I think Meteor. The more I think about it, I think Meteor Herd actually is my favorite too, because like I understand the radar can make it difficult, I wish it wasn't the way it was, but also I love the expansive Emerald stages because those are the ones, for me anyway, where it's almost impossible for me to ever know anything because they're so big that it's like you first get in them and you're like, oh my god, there's so much to do here, you know? And
But
I
it
also
feels
really
cool.
like the
In like the Mario 64, check out this big new world we're exploring kind of sense.
By the way, for chat, when I say radar upgrade, I mean like a literal upgrade because like it would not be broken for the smaller stages, and then you would get an upgrade later that would show the 3 emerald pieces going off. Because I see some confusion in chat about that. I don't mean like the whole radar should
you
be
could
up.
honestly just replace the sunglasses entirely with it, probably.
Yeah,
Because the sunglasses still are like, what the fuck?
they're only good for the mission 5s.
They're only
like,
good for
looking
aesthetics.
cool. Yeah.
you know.
As far as my favorite hunting stages go, I want to say like Dry Lagoon, and I actually really like Security Hall. Casually,
I think Security Hall is fine. I just don't like how often you have to go up to the top.
yeah,
But at least the thing about Aquatic Mine is that it has that, and it's claustrophobic as fuck, and there's just a lot wrong with that. But in Security Hall, it's like it's pretty open, so it doesn't bother me as much. Still
Yeah.
annoying, but
and the fact that you can open up any of the safes anyway on Dreamcast is pretty cool.
I think one other thing too is the draw distance, and that like that kind of does add to the frustration of the bigger stages. Quite unfortunately, again, I can look past it, but it is there, and I have had moments in Meteor Herd where I'm like, where is it? And if I could literally just see down there near the bulldozers, I would be able to see where the emerald is, you know.
Yep,
But
I think it should also maybe not be as big, but I think in Dreamcast it's a slightly different green, like it's a lighter green. I think that maybe it should be a lighter green and glow up a little bit too, instead of being the super dark green that the emerald pieces are in the stages on dark backgrounds.
I think I'd like it more if even when I think I would have liked a system like an SA1 where there's more than just 3 colors on your radar. I think I would have appreciated that because
yeah,
sometimes it is really annoying where you're in like this huge area where it just keeps blinking green, and I'm like, oh, come the fuck on! Like, can you just? I don't know.
part of me believes that even that would be enough to really kind of subdue this problem with the radar, because especially in places like Death Chamber, if I could literally just know if I'm even in the right room or not, that helps me, you know?
So the reason why, also from a gameplay perspective, why I really dislike Death Chamber is because if you go out of bounds, which is really easy to do in that stage, by the way, you can see that the rooms are like really like far apart from each other or close to, like there's no consistency for where they are. You know how you can dig into the walls and they teleport you obviously to another room. Some of them do not relate to where the emerald is blinking, so it'll like be blinking like green or something, and then you dig in and it's like, okay, there's nothing even remotely close to here. Sometimes you have to dig into a room and then all of a sudden it starts blinking red even though it wasn't blinking yellow from the room before, that you have to dig into that one to even be able to know where that it was right on your stream today, King K. Like, you dug into this room and you had no emerald beeping whatsoever, and then you dug into that room and then that's where the emerald piece was.
Yeah. That happens
Like
a lot.
that I feel like that's just broken like in that stage because of the fact that those rooms are like either really close together or really far apart from each other. So that's another thing I'll criticize about that one. ST, what do you think about hunting? I noticed you were a little quiet during this section.
Let's see.
Sorry.
I'd say my favorite hunting stage is either Pumpkin Hill or Meteor Herd. I really like those levels. I remember when I was playing through the game again. If I had to pick one, I would say it's Pumpkin Hill. I don't know if that's a generic answer or not. I don't really care. But yeah, whether it be the music or just the visual design of it, I think is really cool. I like the whole Halloween-esque look of it.
It's a cool atmosphere for sure.
Yeah. I'm a guy that really, really loves atmosphere.
And it really helps that like every treasure hunting level has good music too. So.
Especially on your first time, you'll be there for a while, so better have good music to accompany that. So yeah, I gotta give it to Pumpkin Hill. When it comes to least favorite, I guess I would say Mad Space.
I mean, Mad Space is one of those levels where I can't blame anyone for not liking it because it's just.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But it's not one I look forward to playing either. It's like, okay, gotta do Mad Space. I get to, the next Shadow level. It feels like a stage I gotta do and not one I want to do,
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Mad Space.
That's how a lot of people in general feel
kind
about
of
the
a-
other gameplay styles.
I actually don't feel that way about these gameplay styles at all.
Yeah,
I
me neither.
quite
I'm
enjoy all
just
three.
saying that's what a lot of people say. And that's like one thing when it comes into the story modes of this game, where like you're going back and forth between different gameplay styles that people don't like. But would you rather do
yes.
that, or would you rather like,
And this is how we
Play-
got
like-
stuck playing a Sonic only for a decade.
yeah, or would you rather like play all these Knuckles stages back to back to back to back like you do in SA1, or like the big stages back to back to back to back like you do?
So I think that's a good
True.
point I never really
Yeah.
considered before, but I think it's just a lot more natural to go from style to style rather than playing them all at once. I think that was another problem with SA1 for me, is that it's so much more obvious when they're all in their own category that it's like it kind of screws with the pacing a bit,
Oh my, the pacing of SA2 in my opinion is a lot better than SA1's.
Yeah, and skipping ahead to SA3, no, 06.
Yo, Sonic 06?
Same
It's
thing.
like I was playing it on stream for like one of my celebration streams, and you start to feel that maybe Silver wouldn't feel so bad if it weren't for the fact that you're sitting there.
Or if you played
For-
Project 06.
Yeah, you're sitting there for an eternity playing this gameplay style, and it's like, wow. Whereas I feel like in SA2, like people are like, oh, well, 2/3 of the game is me playing, these poopy gameplay styles. And like, yeah, but like, you're also not. I mean, with exceptions, of course. Like, I just think Death Chamber is going to take like anyone kind of a while on their first try, unless they get really lucky. But it's like this idea that like, yeah, you play Sonic for a while and then you're just stuck playing these awful gameplay styles. I'm like, I don't really believe it's like that. I think there's a kind of an even spread and a flow to it, to where obviously I played the game a lot, but it never really feels like I'm exactly losing out a whole lot when I play this, because of how it's paced. Whereas I feel like if I were playing just mech shooting levels for a while, maybe I'd get a bit bored.
Well, it's a good thing you don't speedrun Dark Story.
Oh. Not anymore. No.
Anyway,
Someone just brought up
unless if
something
you did,
about-
I don't know.
Someone just brought out saying, I mean, in Unleashed Generations and Forces had more of an SA2 approach where you had to play all play styles to progress, so take a guess in which approach Sonic Team liked more. I would suppose that's true. I think Generations kind of like, I mean, I guess, yeah, the classic and modern are definitely different gameplay styles. That just like brings me back to like, I hate how that game like forces you to do like the weird little things in between the stages, but I guess that's another podcast.
Oh yeah.
Like the hunting and those where it's just like you go through the level and like,
Well, it's
like,
weird
dig here.
because like they in SA2 there are missions kind of like that in the levels where like you don't have to do any of those.
Yeah.
It felt like really jarring in Generations when they're like, yeah, just do those. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm like, I don't want to
guess.
have to do
Alright.
these at all. Like,
Yeah, actually, and that's another point. I think comparatively between SA2 and like I like Unleashed and all, but like the Werehog, even if it was just like the gameplay style alone is like you feel whatever way you do about it,
Feels like
they
Devil
have
May
you
Cry.
play it and it goes on for a while, and then on top of that you have any of the stuff in the hub world, and it's like, well, even if you are okay with the gameplay style or you enjoy the gameplay style, there just feels like this incredibly weird feeling when you play as Sonic for like 6 minutes at most, and then it's on to this other stuff. And in SA2, I guess you could say it's the same thing, but I simply just believe that the game is paced in a way to where it is not nearly as jarring. And yeah.
I also think the gameplay styles in SA2 are more based off of keeping a flow and momentum than the Werehog is, where it's like a beat 'em up and puzzle solving.
Yeah.
So that
It's a bit more
I mean, I
dramatic.
love Unleashed, but SA2 doesn't strike me as like, people say that the SA2 gameplay styles are like questionable. I don't really think they are. I mean, they're a little weird, but like they kind of fit. Whereas, I would say Unleashed a little questionable, even if I do love that game. So I think it makes a lot more sense in SA2. I think it fits more naturally than people would say.
yeah.
I think for gameplay styles, it really just comes down to one's tolerance. And when I say tolerance, I mean, how much time would you be willing to put in to actually learn and come to appreciate a gameplay style that is different from what you perceive Sonic to be?
Well, and then you have other games, where I guess the whole point is that it's just all in the level design and stuff. But I think that Mario games and Donkey Kong games, well, I'm not exactly vouching for DK64, but I know a lot of people like DK64. And like any collectathon, really. These also have areas where you just do something completely different. And Zelda games too. And people can like or dislike elements of these, but it never really feels quite so hard-boiled into the conversation as it is with Sonic, where it's like, if I stop playing as Sonic and doing the things that I know Sonic does for like even a moment, I'm gonna have a breakdown. And I just don't feel like that. I felt like that. I started to understand the feeling when I played Secret Agent Clank just now, and where I was literally doing like an hour of gameplay that I just thought was completely mindless.
Well, I think the thing is that if all the styles are fun and fast paced, then like what's really the problem,
Mhm.
Yeah. Like
And-
someone in chat just said, like, I think the fact that SA2 has 3 core gameplay styles might be what people find jarring, but in my opinion, if all those gameplay styles are good on their own, then there shouldn't really be a problem. I guess it just comes down to preference. But I
Not
think
only
a
are
lot
they
of...
good, but they're also like speed focused.
Right.
Because like I can understand people taking umbrage with like the Werehog. Like that does feel like a step too far to me.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I think that Mech and treasure hunting both have elements of momentum and speed-based learning the stage and stuff. That's just it's a lot like what you do in the speed stages. So there's like a mechanical theme going on,
Mhm.
threaded together by the ranking system. So it just kind of works.
I guess I equate it to like how a collectathon has you. There's a core gameplay style, but there's also plenty of other stuff that you do in these games, and it all lends to one core central theme of doing things in exchange for rewards and stuff. And obviously Sonic isn't really slow paced enough to be this thing where you go on an adventure like Ocarina of Time and do various quirky things to get like gold Skulltula tokens or something. But I think what it is in SA2's case is really just a lot of these things building into one greater whole of skill and reward for that. But of course, we haven't even talked about the treasure hunting, or not the treasure hunting, the mech shooting yet.
Right. So, does anyone have
Pew, pew.
anything else to add about treasure hunting before we get on to mech?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so mech is my least favorite because.
All right, so hold B spin.
So mech is my least favorite. As much as
I would
it
have
is-
to say that even though I like mech shooting, out of the three, it's probably my least favorite one.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest one to really get a grasp on, if like from a speed focus perspective. I think that some of the level design, at least for the Eggman stages specifically, just involve you waiting and waiting for so
There
long.
are so many moments in Eggman stages where you sit on something and it's like an elevator, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Lost
Like,
Colony is one where it's like, okay, I guess I'll, go take a piss or something while this elevator is going up. Obviously the first stage, Iron Gate. Yeah, once you come back to it, you can just skip that whole thing because you have the hover, but you don't in the first playthrough. You don't have it.
I really think that I love the upgrades in this game and all. I really think the hover needs to have been an essential. Like, it really, really sucks not having the hover, because like you get like the bounce bracelet's fun, but you don't need it. You know what I mean? Not having the hover is really fucking annoying. Because it feels like the entire playstyle is kind of built around it. Because you can tell some of the earlier levels are like, yeah, they were built without the hover in mind, but it pisses me off in a way that the other upgrades don't. Because not having it is just like you play like fucking like I understand that Sand Ocean would be like it wouldn't work the same way with the hover, you know what I mean? But it's just it annoys me.
It's better. Like, it wouldn't work the same way, but honestly, who wants to be waiting around in Sand Ocean like you have to? When
Juice
you get
loved
the
that level.
Okay.
like Sand Ocean's like an entirely different level to me when I go back to it with the hover.
It has new paths that open up with the hover, so that's one thing. But also, if you, as much as like as a speedrunner, I despise when I get to that stage. If you
What do you
get
mean?
like,
You love it.
yes, I absolutely love it. If you
You
get
love
like
resetting.
first that stage is on cycles, like platform cycles. If you can successfully like platform 100% correct and get first cycle, it's probably the best mech stage that exists. if you cannot, then it's the worst. And if you had hover, the stage would be broken. So
That's what I'm saying is that I wish that they
design
had
the
not
levels around it.
designed the game that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I understand why they give you the hover late
Yeah.
in a future stage, but I just hate how it feels when you don't have it. And I don't feel that way with most other upgrades. Like, yeah, it's weird not having the light speed dash, but like it's not like, or the bounce bracelet, or like, but it's not like the hover is like one of the only times where I'm like, Jesus, I just want the hover. Please give me the hover.
I've thought about this before. I've thought about the idea that maybe, I like the idea if there was ever a mech return or a remake or whatever, or even if like Omega's play, I don't know. Like, I like the idea of just making the hover a default ability, and then honestly, I would just swap the hover upgrade out with like a dash or like because I feel like another problem. I think really, in my opinion, the thing that makes the mech shooting not quite as fun as a regular speed level, other than the fact that I'm not doing backflips with snowboards and shit, is the fact that I feel like there eventually begins to feel like there isn't a lot to do with it other than, you're shooting and getting those combos, and that's intrinsically satisfying. But you kind of wish that there was like one other thing that the mechs could do to maybe get a better sense of flow, give them another ability or something. that really makes it feel like the joy isn't just in racking up.
I
those
think
combos.
there's something to be said about how, in terms of evolution, Sonic and Knuckles, those two gameplay styles, speed and treasure hunting, feel like, they don't really feel like they shed too much to become what they are in SA2. Whereas mech shooting, while I just straight up prefer it to Gamma overall. In the final picture, I just prefer how it is in SA2. I do think it's the one gameplay style that shed maybe a little too much and became a little bit too rigid.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
where like Gamma was like, I really didn't like Gamma's levels. It's not even like necessarily about Gamma's like easier to control or whatever. It's more that Gamma felt more like a Sonic character just with a gun. Well, with
Yeah.
not a Shadow the Hedgehog gun, but like a
Yeah.
a blaster or whatever. Like he felt a little bit more like in SA2 it feels a little more like they scaled it back just a tad too much,
Yeah.
And also, I have no. Whoa, that was a weird flash of light there. I have no problems with how the mechs control really much in SA2, but like you do have moments like in Mission Street where you're like walking up that little spiral and Tails is
That
walking
is
pretty slow.
such a bad part of the level, in my opinion.
And sometimes I'm just thinking, man, this thing can turn into a car. I kind of wish I could drive up there. Or there's actually, in the very beginning of A Dark Story, I love this part so much, where Eggman just comes in. He's like, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
part of me wishes that there was just that little bit more to make them a bit more exciting. And I think that I think I still actually like these stages more than the treasure hunting, believe it or not. But I definitely believe that there's room to improve them still.
Yeah.
Which is why, the speed stages. The speed
I
stages
yeah.
are definitely my favorite, because really the issue there to me is any issue that arises is basically entirely in general lacking, general jank that just comes from with this game, or the stage itself being like, Final Chase, where there's things that just aren't really working as well. But it's from fundamentals, I just think that they got it with the speed levels, and I think there's just a little bit more to be done with the other ones a bit.
I
Can
think
we,
the mech levels are just very like samey. Like they're not. I think of my favorite levels in SA2, and the mech stages don't immediately come to my mind. There's like, I have a lot of fun with Cosmic Wall's gimmick. Don't exactly have a lot of fun with the sections where you're just sitting there, but I've always liked Cosmic Wall because of how they reverse gravity and stuff. But like,
Yep.
other than that, it's like I don't. It's hard for me to be like, oh, that's definitely my favorite mech stage, because it's just kind of like they all feel really similar in how they play and like what you do in them. That it's like, yeah, they're fun. Like they are fun. It's just not as like standout, I guess.
Yeah. For every mech stage that I would consider my favorite, there's something about it that I don't like.
Yeah.
And also, for a second, I guess we can talk about how, in my opinion, as I really like the mech stages, the mech gameplay in this game more than SA1's, because of the fact that it's way more based on momentum. Like, Gamma doesn't really change speeds and stuff like that when you go uphill
Yeah.
and you turn into that thing. Also, the hover feels way better in this game because of the fact that it actually reserves your momentum, and when you play as
Yeah,
Gamma,
it's
you
way
you
more fun to
automatically
play
stop.
with.
Yeah.
The fact that you can, if you hover really fast off a jump with speed, you go higher is just great.
Yeah.
Like it just feels really good.
As far as like my favorite mech levels in this game, as much as I shit on it, I still think Sand Ocean's probably like the best designed one. And then, like for Tails, I would shit on Eternal Engine too because of like the enemy placement and stuff like that. But I think Eternal
Oh,
Engine
yeah.
is actually pretty good. Lost Colony is another one of my favorites, except for the stupid elevator that you have to wait a minute on. Like, there's always something in the mech stages that I don't like. Cosmic Wall, it used to be my favorite, and now it's not because I want to go through it faster and I can't because I have to like wait so long with these like long jumps and stuff. I think it's good mechanically. I just don't prefer it.
You can do Swiss cheese and
I do more than yeah. I mean, the skip that they have now skips even more of the level and happens faster.
good.
So, yeah.
Great. I mean, my favorite, I think, is that's kind of a difficult one. Unfortunately, it's impossible for me to parse the level itself from the music and story moments. So I guess I won't bother to because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
Because Cosmic Wall means a lot to me. Because that is like a real victory march level for Eggman.
Yeah.
And I love the music and I love the gimmick. Problem with the level, though, is that it actually, I mean, I have fun with the level, so I don't really mind this so much, but like eventually it's kind of long. And that's fine to me. I'm okay with even like a lot of heroes levels, but when you get to this end of a stage, if you find out that you don't get an A rank after all that, you're like,
oh yeah.
You know, and so
It doesn't help that a lot of that time is just sitting on a platform and shooting, and it can get really grating with repeat playthroughs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
wish the
haven't
stage
even really
focused more
gone
on the
into, the
gravity
ranking
stuff.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like with the mech stages specifically, I don't think we've even really gone into what the incentive is to shooting more enemies and getting bigger combos,
Yeah.
which is obviously the ranking system.
Mhm.
Though, I mean, I don't think it's
Mash equals bad.
I think it's probably the weakest
yeah.
rank wise too, because like it's fun. It does. I think it makes the gameplay style better. To like, you have to rack up the combos without getting hit for as long as you can without the laser running out, and that is fun. And it does require you to learn where the enemies are and like what's going on. But I don't think there's as much of a like satisfaction as there is with treasure hunting A ranking or speed A ranking.
Yeah.
It's not quite
agree.
instant gratification, really much past seeing the little perfect slide in on the left side of a
Yeah.
screen, you know.
Yeah, and you don't
Yeah.
know for sure like how many you're gonna need. If you, like you were saying, if you get through all of Cosmic Wall, which takes a long time, and you don't get an A rank, then you're like, really, I have to play through all of that again for someone who like is just like okay with the gameplay style. It's not as much of an incentive there.
And honestly, when I really think about it, I think a lot of what makes those mech stages cool to me is that, like, when I actually think about it, I'm like, well, is Cosmic Wall my favorite? Well, no, because I kind of like Prison Lane, and I kind of like Eternal Engine with the gravity holes. I just don't like the bullshit enemy placement here and there. But then even Mission Street, as much as I hate it now, I actually really like it because it's a fun level.
I mean,
where
Mission Street, Jeb, is pretty free. I don't know what you're
It's-
talking about.
free real estate. The
Oh, what
level.
It's about as free as Sub 2.
Sub 2 hidden
What
base.
happened?
Yeah, Sub 2 Hidden Base.
Yeah, but like, I like the level and the set piece, and I like all the military bombardment and the wanted posters of Tails, and it's just a really, and I like the music piece. The music piece is a fan
He's
favorite.
wanted for so much money.
Yeah,
But yeah.
but
So many zeros.
technically, when you really think about it, a lot of mech stages are kind of just, you know, the same thing. And you think about Sonic and Knuckles and how technically when you look at their stages, you're kind of doing the things you want to be doing as these characters. Whereas with the mechs, I feel like there aren't set pieces enough that actually make you feel like you're doing all that you could be as the character within reason of limitations at the time with the console, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe something a little bit closer to what they show, like in the cutscenes and everything like that. Just like a closer fusion, give you a little bit more ability. Would have been.
I think the best way for me to put it is that mech shooting feels like the thing that would need the most work if they were to make an SA3, you know?
Yeah.
Which I wish they did, but I don't think that's ever happening. But
I don't wish they did
Technically,
right now.
They already did.
Well, and in my opinion, 06 had the right idea, and it made the characters feel a bit closer to Sonic in terms of general objective and kind of rules. But then they just made it, you know, they just kind of borked it where a lot of characters aren't fun to play. But I think that things from the mech shooting can apply to like Omega, or Eggman if you got playable again, and things with treasure hunting. These are all lessons that they can take and then make something new with it. And it's kind of like I can't really hold it much against SA2 because for one thing, I don't think these are like awful to play, and for another thing, I just it's not a doomed concept to me. It really isn't.
Yeah.
I agree, but I also think that if they wanted to actually expand upon the gameplay styles, then I don't think they could really do it how they do in 06, where you kind of like quickly go to Knuckles and like have this objective, or like you quickly go to Omega for like this little section in the whatever the sand level is. I don't remember.
No, I prefer if 06 honestly just kept it to Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, because they're you know, the way
I think at that point there's enough like variance that it's fine to like drop the other characters at that point, because I think the problem with other Sonic games is that it's just Sonic.
Yeah.
But with 06 it was at least like, I think that's why I really have reverence for these older games where like you could play as more than just Sonic.
Okay, so I guess, do we have anything else to add about the mech gameplay and stages, or?
No, I mean,
I feel like I trashed on it the entire time, but I do still think they're fun. Like, I love the game. I wouldn't, like, it's just they're the weakest. They probably need the most work, and the levels kind of blend together. But I do have fun getting A ranks, you know? Just the same as the other ones, so.
I do like how arcadey they almost feel in their nature.
Yeah.
That
It's
is
a Sega
one
game.
that I've always liked.
Cool. So I guess if there's nothing else to add to mech, then I guess I have cart written down here, but I don't. I mean, like,
I feel like we
love
don't
Mario
really
Kart.
need to address the carts because they're just not the greatest. I don't really know why they're in the game.
Me neither.
It's cool for multiplayer, I guess.
It's
but
there. It's harmless. It can
I actually think
fun.
it's really cool that everybody gets their own cart in multiplayer. But
yeah.
I mean,
I wish
really,
it was
it's
like
harmless.
expanded
That's
upon
all.
a little bit more, honestly, like in the multiplayer, and if they just like randomly kept it to that, then that would have been cool. Like I know in the Dreamcast there's a bunch of DLC stages and like other carts you can drive and stuff, which is neat. But those
it just doesn't really have much of a place in the main game.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of weird.
Especially
yeah,
being that, you know, Tails has a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too. That's also like really weird that he's like, yeah, I'm gonna drive my car. It's like, and he's
Especially
even
when you play as
flying.
Rouge, what's Tails
Yeah, when you
doing?
play as Rouge, he's flying.
He's
and it's
flying
like-
his plane.
It's probably the most obvious, like, like we gotta get Tails in this game, and then, well, I guess we're gonna also get Rouge in this game. Well, we can't make like a whole nother level for these guys. I know, we're doing that whole multiplayer thing, so okay, we're gonna make, we're gonna make the kart levels, and kids like Mario Kart, And then
I was gonna say, yo, y'all ever played Mario Kart?
maybe Tails can chase down the president's limo, whereas normally Sonic would just run up to the limo. We could just skip this whole thing, but
Which he does anyway.
which he does. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
And can't Tails run faster than a whatever? Like
Yeah.
this was back in the series where Tails was able to keep up with Sonic, so
And that's the whole stipulation behind their partnership.
you know.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they were kind of unnecessary for the story for sure. I don't think it should have been required, but it's cool for 2-player, and it could have been expanded on a little bit more. A little bit more stuff added in the ports. That's pretty much just sums up what I think about the kart racing. Maybe even if you got more power-ups than just a speed boost, that would have been cool.
They're
Like, in
the
multiplayer.
sky chase of this game.
God
Oh,
damn,
yeah.
I hate those things.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sky Chase either.
I'm just gonna go up in the corner and just stay there because that's what you can do in Sonic Adventure. You don't have to interact.
Sky Chase, it's like, it's only better than Sky Chase on the merit that I can send vans that I know are full of kids flying off the road.
God, you're making
I'm
me
so
think
sorry.
about those other missions where don't hit the cars, don't hit the walls. Oh God. Like
Oh,
I have
yeah,
to
those
shoot
are
this like I
tough.
do in real life. Well, what's the point then?
What's the point of a game?
I will say that the carts are more fun when I'm speedrunning because you have to like do the drifting the entire time and like
Yeah.
save your boosts. But I mean, everything's kind of made more fun with speedrunning, so it's like whatever.
Especially this game, I feel like lends itself so well to that because it's just that you get better at everything if you play it more and you know everything more, but taken to the absolute extreme where it has its really
Yeah.
high highs. That's what I really like about speedrunning of this game. But the last thing I have for the gameplay section before we go on intermission is favorite music.
Oh, don't ask that.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Yes. My favorite yes.
Yes.
So as
So
far as
I think we should probably do like, maybe like top for like each character maybe, or maybe some honorable mentions too. But like I think like if you get like a favorite for each character, not like because each character has their own like style of music, you know. So I think it'd
Yeah.
be cool if we like
Rock,
discuss some of
techno.
a couple of our favorites from each character or something.
okay, sure.
Maybe.
So I'll start, and I'll say for Sonic, can we only say one, or should we?
No, you can do
we
like a couple.
include
I don't want to be
the-
limiting. That was just an
Yeah.
idea, you know.
It's really hard not to say City Escape, right? Like Escape from the City is
Yeah.
so memorable. Everyone knows it. It's a great song. Another one though, damn, between like Green Forest. Green Forest.
I was
is
gonna
really
say
good.
you want to say Green Forest and you know it.
Yeah, no, Green Forest music is really, really good.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Final Rush is good too. Let's say each person will say their like Sonic one, and then each person will say their Tails one, because I don't want to like sit here and go through all of them before someone else gets a chance to talk. So someone else can go with their Sonic stuff.
I think-
Well, I guess. I mean, you know what? I did compliment Green Forest track before, and yeah, I'm gonna go with Green Forest again.
Stick with it. Stick with your guns.
I'm gonna stick with my guns. You know, that's what I do,
It's a
and
good
I like
gun.
it. I like it purely not just because like it's a good track on its own, but because of the urgency behind it in the story's context and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I really
Mhm.
liked.
There's
So, yeah.
no way that I can pick anything except City Escape. So
All right, I have a question. Can I pick
Mhm.
the character theme? Because
I feel
Sure.
like that should count.
that
Sure.
should
Yeah.
count.
Go for it.
Well,
Yeah.
City Escape, or it doesn't matter, or Green
Oh.
Forest, or Metal
Tough.
Harbor. I
Tough.
don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. I think I'd pick. I love SA2. It doesn't matter. I think it fits more for the character. I think it is just the coolest anthem when Sonic pops in on screen and it just starts playing. And like well, anytime like when it played in Black Knight for a bit, it's just
Oh
nice.
yeah. Yep. Okay, yeah. I mean, as far as character themes goes, yeah, Sonic. I think I like his a lot more in SA2 than SA1. It's just
I
like a
think
lot
I
more
would say
fast
that's better than the
paced.
stage themes. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be the opposite, and I liked the SA1 version more, and then I changed my mind. As far as Tales go, I really like Mission Street and also Eternal Engine. I want to say are my two favorite Tales stages.
Mm.
I also forgot to say, like, Pyramid Cave is a sleeper pick for Sonic. The guitar in that stage sounds so good.
Oh
Forgot
yeah,
about that one.
yeah, for sure. So I think Tails for me. I think I'm gonna go with Prison Lane.
Prison Lane's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest techno guy, but something about Prison Lane just sounds kind of nice on the ears to me. I do like Eternal Engine as well, but I think I'm gonna go with Prison Lane.
I think Prison Lane's also my favorite, honestly. I like Prison Lane and Eternal Engine the most, but
Yeah.
I always really liked Prison Lane as a track. It's really good.
This is something I debated about pretty heavily for my SA2 video because I tried to pick one track for each character. That's like my favorite one. Although I opted to pick Metal Harbor for Sonic just because it's cheating due to City Escape. And I already did it earlier in the video. But for Tails, it's forever a struggle in my mind to pick between Prison Lane or Eternal Engine. They both have just such a punchy feeling to them.
Yep.
Like you're going on a mission, and it's just. I think nowadays I might prefer Prison Lane just because that's immediately what pops into my head.
And I like how you mentioned that because it also fits the theme of why Tails was there in the first place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's on a mission to break Sonic out.
Mission
And
Street
it
is really
feels
funny.
like Tails' music. I've always just interpreted it as it feels like Sonic music. It feels like his older brother, you know, but with his own little vibe to it, and that's this
But
sort
it feels more like downbeat rock as opposed to like, because there are songs like Mission Street and Hidden Base, which are like rock, but they're like a bit more like, I don't know how to even describe.
I mean, they
it,
have
but
synth
they're
in
Would you
them
describe it as
well.
happy?
like, yeah, they're like a bit more playful, a bit less intense, you know, like.
Yeah.
So I think it fits pretty well.
Yep. As far as Knuckles goes, I want to say Meteor.
I think Knuckles is the hardest one for
My
me.
man's Nux.
Because there's
It's-
so many good ones. I
it's
don't
really-
even
Yeah,
know.
Knuckles is really hard.
Between Pumpkin Hill and Meteor Herd is pretty hard for me to pick.
Yeah.
It's a hard choice, but I'm going to say Meteor Herd.
I think I had to go with Pumpkin Hill, personally.
I feel like
Yeah.
Meteor Herd is the one I like the most. think
Meteor
that's what I would say.
Herd is. I think there's no other way. Like the level is so enhanced by just this feeling of exploring, and as if I'm exploring space, and I have my Walkman on, listening to this vibing music. I think that's just it's. Anytime I think of SA2, it's actually one of the themes I think about.
Mm.
It's like,
I really like the
if-
vibe of it.
honestly, if somebody asked me, "Hey Jeb, can you describe to me why you like this poo-poo game?" I'm just going to pass them that, and it should work.
Yeah. But I really like all of them.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, there's not really a Knuckles track I think I dislike at all.
As far as Shadow goes, It's I want to say Final Chase for me.
If we're including
But
character
what-
themes, then Throw It All Away is immediately my choice.
Oh yeah, if we're doing character themes.
If it's stage, probably Radical Highway.
I love Radical Highway. I love all the Shadow Stage music. So it's really
Radical Highway and Throw It All Away are like.
All right, so you know how I said
good.
Green Forest?
White Jungle.
Yeah.
Hell
good.
yeah,
It's
I
great.
love White Jungle.
White
I don't
Jungle's
know.
also really good.
Mine would be White Jungle. For sure.
Can
I really like. I don't know. This is tough.
Can I count supporting me?
We'll get into
Uh,
we'll get into that. We'll get into that after the character stuff because actually
Oh.
my favorite music in this game has nothing to do with the a lot of them. My actually favorite ones aren't in the stages or the character themes. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
then
we're just
if
talking
we're
stage music.
if we're not counting, if we're counting just the character theme and the stages, I think that Throw It All Away has actually really grown on me. I used to not like it that much, but it's. I think I'm just gonna have to say, White Jungle. Like,
White Jungle is probably close.
it is actually pretty much on equal footing with Green Forest. It is.
it's good.
When it was in Forces, I clapped. Let's just say.
Oh yeah, it's a really good remix.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as much as I don't like Forces, when I heard that they were bringing that song into it, I was, oh, you've got my attention now, a little bit.
I think the reason I picked Radical Highway is that like every time they've remixed White Jungle, I've just preferred it to the original because it's really good. But I don't know. I Radical Highway has always been like. I just really like the guitar in Radical Highway and the like
It's sick.
synth beats they put in. It just sounds so fucking cool. That is like I think the reason I pick it too is that that's like the quintessential Shadow like. He's like edgier version of Sonic, but still ultimately Sonic. You know what I mean? He's like,
Yep.
I don't know. It just fits really well.
Yeah, I mean, if they were trying to like paint that picture, which they were with the genres they were giving each character, I think every stage does that except for Skyrail because Skyrail is just it's the
Skyrail
Sonic.
was clearly meant to be
Yeah.
a Sonic level from the
Yeah.
music.
Can I just say, the name for Skyrail, Mr. Unsmiley, has always made me laugh.
It's really
I don't-
funny. I like it.
Mr. Unsmiley. That's so weird.
As far as that stage goes, I really like its composition too. I like how it has like the dun, 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 like in it, which is really cool. It's a little another. I don't even know if Junsanoi did it on purpose in that scenario, but there are so many like examples of leitmotif in this soundtrack that lead up to Live and Learn, and that just being one of them is something that I think is really cool. As far as Eggman goes, I want to say Cosmic Wall, probably. Actually,
think
wait, no,
Eggman.
character theme.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
what
go
am I
it's probably
saying?
yeah. Character theme's got to take the cake. Here.
I gotta
Yes.
go with Eggman's character theme too.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Yeah.
Kind of have to go with you on that one.
But I think actually, Eggman generally has like a lot of my favorite music in the game. I
Really?
really like the style of music Eggman goes for. Yes.
Okay, that's one I haven't
Yeah.
heard before.
Like, well, I guess
What?
I can't
Yeah.
really say that because I'm saying it about Knuckles and I'm saying it about Sonic too, and Tails. So really, but dude, I really like Sand Ocean and I really like Cosmic Wall and actually all of them really.
Dude, every time I hear the music of Sand Ocean boot up when I get to it in a speedrun, I just
Eggman is
anymore.
feels like more like grungy. I really like
Yeah.
that. Like it's. I mean, a lot of people can boil it down to like, oh, it's just butt rock or whatever. But I really feel like there's enough variance between the characters that you can tell that there's a difference that it fits them. It makes
Yeah.
it feel distinct.
Yeah, there's good. Junsanoi likes to put guitar in like almost all these songs, but that doesn't mean that the genres are different. I mean that there aren't different genres. Also, Junsanoi isn't the only composer on this soundtrack. There are like 4 main ones, and they each like cover a different gameplay style. Like there's a completely different composer for Rouge's stages, for example. Like a lot of, I hear a lot in the criticism for this game is like all the music sounds the same. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mm-mm.
I never really
I think a
understood
lot
that.
of rock music sounding the same as like Mega Man X8, where I literally barely remember anything from it, even if I played it twice. But like, I think there's enough variance within the actual music itself that if it's the same genre, it doesn't matter. Like I can't. It's the same thing for Shadow and Heroes, where these games are mostly rock,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
I know all the music.
Like there's jazz music, there's hip hop music as well. Like those are those not varied enough for you? I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of variance in the rock. Like
That too.
Sonic's
yeah.
more like straightforward rock. Shadow's more like Shadow and Eggman really are more grungy, but Shadow is more synths and like.
Yeah.
It's I think there's enough variance that each character stands out, and that's why I've always liked it as one of my favorite soundtracks in the franchise, because there's some like I really like that.
There's such character to it, and ironically, I mean, I guess Unleashed and Generations technically did it, but those are different forms of Sonic. And then Forces kind of is what this game is doing too, where the Avatar has their music and Sonic has his, and it's really unique, and I've not really seen another game do it, quite like SA2.
Yeah.
Like not even just Sonic, I mean like just generally speaking.
Yeah.
By the way, if we're talking about favorite Rouge music, I want to say this because it's just hilarious. My favorite Rouge track is called 34 degrees N, 12 degrees
Oh
E.
my yeah, Mad Space.
That's my favorite track, but dear Lord, why is it called that?
Does
I
that
don't even know how to
mean
say that.
anything?
I don't know.
I'm not sure what my favorite Rouge track is.
Mad Space sucks, but that track is fire. I love Mad Space.
Oh,
I don't
it's
really think I have
so
a
hard for
favorite.
me to pick Rouge. I think everything except for Egg Quarters is my favorite. I like
Do
them all
I-
the same. And Egg Quarters is not that much like lower on the tier list for me.
Security Hall is also good. I think Rouge's tracks are just all like kind of good for me, so I don't know. It is
I
kind of hard.
love them.
Do I pick Fly in the Freedom or Egg Quarters? I think I'll pick Egg Quarters. I actually like Egg Quarters a lot.
Me too. That's good. What about you, S?
I love Mad Space though.
I'm
Like,
really
the
not
track
sure
is
what
just
my
so
favorite
good.
Rouge level would be. My favorite song from a Rouge level. I'm gonna have to go undecided. I honestly can't pick.
It's hard to say. All right. So just in general, favorite track is Live and Learn. It's one of it's. I think it's in my opinion.
Live
it's-
and Learn is like
Yeah.
it transcends the boundaries of reality. I don't want to be dramatic, but like Live and Learn is one of my favorite songs ever created. So
Yeah, same, big same. I think like
Me too.
just its composition in general is so good. How the guitar meshes with the vocals, the fills, like everything kind of like okay. This is like one thing about Johnny what's his name? Goelli? I don't remember.
Gioeli. I don't
Gioeli.
know
Yeah.
how you pronounce the last name, but
I know he wrote his own lyrics for this song on like Open
Did he?
Your Heart. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that makes a big difference. It's just I don't know, the composition of this song along with how the game builds it up from the moment you boot it up to all the way throughout the game in its cutscenes in supporting me in the core. I don't know what else there is to say about the song. It's just a really damn good song.
it has an instantly recognizable hook.
Yeah.
It has like
it has this epic quality to it. And yeah, maybe it only has it because of where it plays in the game, but like also that's part of the song is where it plays, you know? Just like
and
how
the
the
game-
stage themes incorporate into the stages, and like your favorite stage could be because of the music. It's like all connected. You know, the fact that this plays in the final, like I was saying on stream earlier, like Sonic has never ever topped its ending moment the way the SA2 did. It like peaked there in terms of ending. Like I don't. It's just Live and Learn is part of the reason why it peaked. It's just so fucking good.
The game keeps giving you like smaller versions of it and the leitmotif and stuff. And you know, if you're playing Battle, you know, you watch the intro where Sonic and Shadow cross in front of the moon, and it's saying "Live and Learn" in the background, and it's like constantly this is here, and then when you get to the final boss, it's like, you know, I think there's such a clear reason why this is immediately recognizable, and this is easily the most like iconic vocal track possibly one of the most iconic tracks in the series ever.
Yeah, like even Escape from the City, Live and Learn, like it has its little thing that it shows in there. Supporting Me actually has the main riff of Live and Learn in it. I don't know if so there's that. Not only is it like such a good composition, but just the way obviously the game builds it up to be this epic. Also, the lyrics are actually like really good. And I can't say that for all the Sonic main themes. I think Live and Learn's lyrics are actually good. So
there's also the character recap theme. And then that kicks into Live and Learn, and it literally is just, I mean, plenty of Sonic games have done it like this, and for good reason. They're following this game's example.
Yeah.
You know?
I just don't think it's been executed as well as in this game. So yeah, I mean, other than Live and Learn, I think Supporting Me and some of the event tracks and the character recap song that you actually just brought up is one of my favorites as well in the game. So,
I think Supporting Me is
Story.
Definitely my second favorite one. Oh shit, yeah, For a True Story. That's another one.
Right, yeah, that's a really good one.
Do we have anything to add on music before we take an intermission?
Nothing that I can do on stream.
Okay. All right, so we'll take our intermission now. If you gotta go to the bathroom, grab a drink, stretch, everyone can do that now, and we will be back.
Oh, hang on. Before we start, I was gonna say.
So,
I got to.
Wait, ST, are you dipping out?
Yeah, I gotta go cook dinner. It be that time.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna leave the call just for the sake of the layout, so I won't mess up. But
Okay. It for some reason messed up anyway to picture me on it, but I mean.
Oh well, then I guess maybe I'll just go then.
Nah,
You probably shouldn't leave, or it'll fuck up even.
It'll
more.
make all of us bad.
So,
it'll like.
I'll just. I probably won't be back for the rest, but yeah, I gotta cook dinner and then actually eat dinner and all that. Yeah, so.
All right.
Unfortunately, I gotta go. Thanks for having me.
It's all good.
Bye.
Take care, ST. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so after intermission, I wanted to go through story.
Well, just so everybody knows, I'm eating pizza. Might be a little distracting, but
Very
I
nice.
hope it's not distracting that I drink the Mako energy.
Just don't go insane, like Roche. Okay, so I guess how I have it here is we'll go through each story, but if we want, we can like go over the story as a whole. Kind of depends. It's good. Like you could tackle it in a few different ways.
It's interesting. What's the best way to tackle Sonic Adventure 2 story discussion? It's kind of a... I don't know.
I know the best way.
What's the best way?
Talk about how someone has low standards and obviously has no regard for art form if they enjoy this story.
Yeah.
So on that
note, I was saying something that can lead into this pretty well is that I was saying on my stream during the last story that a lot of the reason that I say SA2 has my favorite story in a Sonic game has less to do. It doesn't have as much to do with the specifics of the story as much as it does the structure, the dialogue, and like the pacing. Because I was in the last story, and I was telling my chat, I'm like, it's not necessarily, people get the wrong impression when I say that I love SA2's story. It's not necessarily that I like the idea that the military came and like killed this girl, like, you know what I mean? And then Gerald Robotnik has this big like revenge conspiracy thing after his death. That's not necessarily the stuff that I'm pointing to, and people sort of get the wrong assumption where I'm like, oh, I need that stuff in my Sonic game. I think that's how we end up with like try hard edgy stuff where people get the wrong impression, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, I like it for more in terms of like the characters feel right, the dialogue is good, the story's structured well, it has good pacing,
It also has stakes, and the characters actually give a shit about what's going on in the story.
It's not necessarily that I want everything in this game is like what I would ideally want out of Sonic, It's more broad than that, I guess.
I mean, people always say, like, oh, well, it's edgy, it's too dark for Sonic, and I don't think that's true. But two, it's not as if, like, the reason I like SA2's story is like, oh, I need the darkness. I need the slaughter of the people on the Ark.
Right.
It's like there's so much that I find captivating about it, but the reason why I have a long video about it is because there's nothing that is all there is to it, really. I think it tells an engaging narrative, and it really brings out the best in the characters that we've grown with all this time. And I think stakes have really, well, technically they've been higher in 06 and probably Unleashed, but at this point in time, it's like, wow, this is a pretty intense evolution of the series.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, even if you discount all the like Gerald Robotnik stuff, military involvement, at the end of the day, the end of the game is you trying to stop this big lizard from crashing into the earth, that's what I care about at the end of the day, is that the characters have to come together against this big thing, And it's just really epic.
You see all of their relationships grow as the story goes on. But yeah, one thing, I mean, I know the lore, I believe was, or like how the game builds, like the evolution, I guess, of the stakes. The evolution in story and the characters and the lore really is at its peak in SA2. Everything builds up on each other. From Sonic 1 to, I mean, Sonic Heroes does too, but it wasn't its main goal. Shadow the Hedgehog goes a little bit too far, and 06 is supposed to be a reboot, even though you get more out of it without it necessarily being a reboot, in my opinion. SA2 was kind of like the peak of the lore and the stories building up themselves, or building upon themselves, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, you could feasibly connect them all.
Yeah.
But I think that's why after SA2 it became much harder to keep connecting them, because I don't know, it just kind of became a bit aimless after that point. Like, you could still feasibly put them all in the same universe, it's just a bit less. Like, you go from 1 to SA2 and you can kind of bridge them all together.
Yeah. Heroes...
Even though other people say you can't because there's humans or something like that, but
I don't really like the humans, but I don't think you can't. I think you can still like go from A to B without much issue. It's just I don't really like them. But it's not like it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's feasible that they were off in their own little corner of the world in the classics,
given the fact that the classics take place on remote islands, yeah.
I don't. I've never really minded the humans, and
I just don't. I'm not super fond of like. Even in Unleashed, when they're stylized, it's just still a little jarring to me. It's not the end of the world. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the comics and stuff like that, like I like the characters in that, and how they're kind of like all animals as well. But I don't know. I guess, do I really have a preference between the two? I'm not sure.
It's one of those things I have a preference, but I don't really care if the story's good.
Yeah.
I mean, SA2 is my favorite Sonic story, and it
Yeah.
has humans in it, so it doesn't matter that much to me. Like, I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of like for example, if they remade the game, kind of having some people in the crowd be these Mobian, Anthro characters, and some of them being human that are more stylized that kind of fit well. I think if it were just more of a consistent thing.
Yeah, I think the
throughout
problem I've always had with it is that it makes Sonic and his friends stand out too much.
Yeah, when they're not supposed to be like from
Yep.
or at least not by the game's definition, not supposed to be from like a distant land or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
maybe mixing them in a little bit more, like you said. I think what people will usually say about the humans if they like them is that it makes them feel like it's more their world that's at stake. I've heard that said. But yeah, I don't mind either way. I think mixing Mobian or whatever characters in would probably be nice. I agree with that.
But then you have, in Forces, they just only do the Mobian characters and IDW, and it's like, then you kind of wonder where Eggman comes from if you truly want to stick with that. So I don't know.
Yeah, because in in the classics, it wasn't necessarily I don't know if they pointed towards other humans being in there, but it was up for debate. It was a mystery, you didn't really know. Whereas in Forces and stuff like that, it's just the one human, which is kind of strange.
I guess it's I don't really, I don't personally mind the approach of yeah, I guess it's when Forces did the thing where it's all animal stuff. I think I don't have too much of a problem with that personally. I guess it's just one of those things that I don't really care enough to want one over the other. It's more if the characters in it are good, then I really don't care if there's humans or if there's animals. It's just, I guess my preference is without human involvement, because it's just a bit, I think it's more so that they're all humans. So I guess what Jeb would have suggested would be my preferred way forward.
Well, I think really the only problem, so to speak, is just acting like they never existed and making two worlds, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
and
just
that's
really
something
unnecessary.
that it wasn't there's one world where humans are in it and one where there's just animals.
Yeah,
something.
even though that literally makes no sense going by information in the games themselves, but it's kind of, I guess in an ideal world you would just go back in time and make a quick fix to SA1 and 2 and just have more of a unity so it's less jarring to people. But
Yeah,
I
agree.
I got once this comment on my SA2 video talking about how this game's story is meaningless. It obviously was trying to go with edgy trends at the time, and I was like, can you please describe to me what that is? Because I hear people say that, but it sounds like something they heard from someone else, let's say.
Well, it's really just
And
that's why I said what I said in my stream, because people like that usually are it's because there's a military that chase Sonic around. It's super surface level story stuff that but that's why I always am that's not what I'm talking about, because that's not how I view stories. It's because the military's involved. Oh yeah, that's why I love Sonic Adventure 2, because the military's chasing Sonic.
Yeah.
That's not why I like it. And you know that's not why I like it. You know that's not why I like this fucking story.
This person's response to me was well, there's Shadow who speaks for himself. I'm like, okay, let's
Does he speak for himself though?
let's just get
I
that
think the
out of the way.
the fans are speaking for him right now.
Yeah. Then he's like, there's humans. I'm like,
Whoa!
I guess Final Fantasy IV is a very edgy game. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
It was just following trends at the time. It had humans in it.
It's like Hot Topic humans. I'm like, yeah, let's take the president who's sitting there in the limo to Hot Topic. No, I don't know what this is. Like, this is like not.
Well, I think it's just willfully not engaging with what we're actually talking about, because that's stuff in the story that's more or less superfluous. Like the like background characters involved, what they look like. It's just kind of like whatever.
Can you tell me?
Is that the story? Is that what's going on in the story? Does that like? It just I don't get it.
Can you tell me what exactly is wrong with the government existing in the world and doing these things? You know, they can't, other than just saying, well, it's not Sonic. I'm like, well, I don't okay, I don't know what that is. But on top of that, like, you know, let's talk about the story at hand and what they're actually doing with it. I think one time somebody told me it's like this, like, it's this rebellious anti-authority story that only appeals to kids, and it's not actually a story. And I'm just like, oh.
Well, first of all, Sonic is kind of inherently anti-authority.
Yeah, that's like what.
That's
Sonic
not really
is.
a new thing.
I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. It's also not the main like theme of the story of Sonic Adventure 2. It's like two counteracting forces between like hero and dark, or like artificiality and being natural and stuff like that.
Persona games don't have stories either. You know, like, I don't know what this is, and I feel like there's just all kinds of rules that people made up for how Sonic Adventure 2 can be actually, you know, even remotely taken as a story. And when
it
video
kind of
is
difficult
talking,
because people inch into the realm of like, well, because all this dark stuff and like the humans and the military, that's why it shouldn't be serious, you know. And then because they
oh my god, I'm sick of
they
that
take
shit.
the ball and they like, what's the phrase? They like, you give them a inch and they
take a mile.
They take a mile.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, well, that's why the characters shouldn't take themselves so seriously because of that. You know, it should be like happy fun, and it's like.
But Sonic is jumping out of a helicopter. He's full of one-liners, but he's also taking things quite seriously. And something I talk about in my video, which is literally like what I think is the main appeal of the story, is how these two forces interact with each other. Especially when two of these main 6 characters are brand new ones. I think they really made something very interesting out of pre-established characters in Link to these new ones. And I think it's literally like all of them. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman. All these recurring characters, just not Amy, really, in my opinion.
I feel bad for Amy in this game, but she does have some important moments, but most of like the scenes that she's in doesn't really like build up her character.
After
The
SA1,
only good moment with Amy is when she talks to Shadow. And that's like
that really is it in this game. I mean, she goes to Prison Island to break out Sonic. That's courageous, but then she's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, Tails
captured
did
by
most of the work,
Eggman.
though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's jarring because I think all the other characters that are returning, this is literally their best appearance. Because I just think they're all challenged in some way, and they all have like a lot of really memorable lines and interactions, and it creates character dynamics that you would literally like forever see with the series, you know, for a while. And it's like, and it's kind of frustrating to me that to see a lot of those either kind of dilute or just cease to exist entirely, because there used to be this really interesting aspect of like respect between Eggman and Shadow following this game, even if it wasn't quite the same, you know. And it's like Eggman particularly is just like, this is the balance between his most serious moments and also him just kind of acting like a bit of a goober.
Yeah.
And it forever set the standard really for what the characters are meant to be. And then I played the classic games and I played Adventure, and it pretty much just felt like more of that stuff, just we weren't at this point yet.
Yeah.
Where Eggman's finally launching Sonic out the window, you know.
Eggman is so good in this game. I mean, all the characters really, except for Amy, like we said.
Well, this is
but-
like, if you took these same events and characters, and dialogue, and you just like, you put it in a different setting, does it really fucking matter? Like, the story, the reason that it works is because it wouldn't fucking matter.
It's
Because
the characters.
it's just such a solid set of events with really good characters that like you want to root for,
And if it were a
Cool
movie,
Hero Dark, yeah.
yeah,
It's I don't know.
I know we
I
said
think there's something
earlier.
really cool about the like contrast between Hero and Dark. That's like it takes the ideas of SA1's narrative and kind of streamlines it, but doesn't lose anything in the process. Where like you get like the same set of events from different angles. I think it really helps the build up that everybody comes together at the end and gets their own stage. But like in terms of the story, it's also like everybody's like even Eggman's like, I don't want to go through with this shit. Like so it's just really special at the end where even he's like, I gotta stop this shit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that was really cool to see. I know we like almost brought it up a little while ago, but like I am very tired of people saying that I don't think that Sonic should have like serious stories. Or like if the characters don't care about the story and it's not a good story in the first place, what's the point? I just never really understood why people were saying that. Like, Sonic
I
don't
think that
really-
about like everything, really.
But people assume that to have a serious story you need to be like SA2, but Heroes came out right after SA2. And it's a lot more jovial in its tone, but it's still like,
The characters are invested in what's going on.
That's all I'm asking for. I don't
Yeah.
need it to necessarily be serious subject matter. It's just like,
Yeah.
if the characters still feel like they're like, I don't know, because even in Heroes you can tell like, I mean, some of the dialogue's a little childish. I feel like they maybe should have toned some of that down, but
Sonic Heroes dialogue is super cheesy, or at least a lot of it is.
but
I'm like-
still at the end of the day you get like, you get these characters coming together and they're like, okay, they still
Yeah.
feel like they're characters. They still feel like they can come together at the end and kick some ass.
I
don't know.
genuinely feel that what they were trying to do with Metal Sonic was pretty compelling. But people just say it's more edge chasing, and he just turns into a Final Fantasy boss, and I'm like, well, okay.
I like
I mean-
metal in that game. I don't. There are other things about that game that I don't like, but the story isn't like its overarching plot is not the thing that I dislike about that game. I don't think it's.
Well, that's because people sort of assume that it's just I don't like the lighter tone of the new games. Well, that's not really the case at all. Because
Like
of Heroes.
Heroes literally just came out, and I don't hate that. And it, I don't know, like SA2. It's not even like either. Like people say that for SA1, it's too serious because, like, I don't know, baby Chao get killed in a raid, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, but a lot of the reason why I like this story is actually how you see it from different perspectives and how people come together and stop this primal evil that's actually pretty misunderstood and has all this, there's different layers and themes, like it's an onion, but it's I don't really think I've seen a platformer really attempting to do such an interwoven story like this. I've never played Sly. I hear that the story in Sly 2 is good, but it's incredibly dismissive to me with SA2 that people just don't really care about any of these things that I care about. They don't really care about how Rouge or how Knuckles feels about Rouge and what she does, and that people don't really care about what Shadow thinks they just see him as stupid Vegeta clone, because all they could really focus on is the bad voice acting, or whatever. I don't know.
Yep.
And it's just created this idea that stories just don't matter. I mean, this story certainly doesn't matter. I mean, this story began all the wrongdoings of stories in 06 and Shadow the Hedgehog, and I just don't think there's...
Well, honestly,
same thing.
I just don't think there's a point in having a story if you're not willing to let the characters be themselves.
I agree.
And that's why Forces pisses me off so much, because they, like, at least Colors was, like, just kind of ostensibly a comedy game. But then when they try again and they're like, we're gonna tell a serious story now, it feels like it completely misses the point. And I don't
it feels
know why
like the story is written first and the characters are just like parodies that are put into place as chess pieces, and they're not.
I don't know
actual
why it's so
characters
hard
that
to
care.
shed that skin, and just I don't get it.
So do
Yeah,
you
everything-
want to get into Sonic writing now, or
What?
we were talking about like the differences between how Sonic characters are written in these games compared to modern games, and how some people will say that they've always been the same. I've specifically seen one thing where it's like Sonic cracks the joke in like Sonic Adventure, and then they're like, "See, this is the same thing as like in Sonic Lost World, guys." And I'm just like, "Yeah, you
God.
totally didn't miss any sort of point there."
Is this what we're talking about today? I don't think you understand what's going to happen soon.
I mean,
Yes, Todd.
we at the beginning of the podcast, I said we could probably get into it a little bit during the story
I mean-
section, because I think it's important, but maybe not. I don't know.
I just the thing that really makes me just facepalm whenever I see people talking about, how Meikawa just took the series by storm to give it edge, and it's just like, I really think that's so dismissive of what he's creating. And I really don't think that he's sitting there like, I know I'm going to make this story as edgy as it can possibly be, and all this stuff, because I think the thing that carries Sonic is pretty much the same thing that carries like Kingdom Hearts, honestly, and that's sincerity. So he has said on numerous occasions that he just sat down and wanted to make what he thought was a really good story. And so to basically just be saying, that his intent is just, screw it, I'm gonna like throw a bone and like subvert your expectations of this franchise or whatever, even though I don't even know what he's exactly doing that subverts those so much as it is expanding on them. I really don't understand.
Yep.
And especially when, not to be fair, for Heroes, it was kind of looked at by a game first
Not as much of an
story later
equilibrium.
basis, yeah. But even for that game, he said, like, I really had fun with this game. My favorite characters are actually the Chaotix. I really had a lot of fun making them, and they're super fun, goofy characters.
My favorite characters in that game.
And and Black Knight has a lot of levity in moments here and there too, and SA2 does as well. But a lot of people don't really care about that, because they just, we're making this a lot about other people, I guess, compared to the actual story itself. But I think, I guess it's hard for me since I've already written it out and talked about it like a million times. But it's just no other story in the series really has as much drive as SA2 to me. They include these character recaps, and they're now voiced in this game as opposed to SA1, and it gives you a lot of the time. It's just like, here's where we're at in the story, but it gives you kind of a sense of where the characters are at and what they're feeling about every given moment.
That's
and
a cool
I think
thing. Yeah.
this game is so character driven and driven by like themes of duality and stuff, and I think that's really kind of what shaped a lot of my interest in games going forward, and it's why I like when I was playing Final Fantasy VII, I really kind of shit my pants when characters have their own themes, like in that and Chrono Trigger, because it is so. Each of these main characters you're playing as is a piece in this puzzle, unless they're optional, in which case maybe they are or maybe they're not. But like, you know, it's, and that's why SA2, it's not about the fact that the government's in it or something like that. It is about how these characters play off this greater scheme happening around them, even though they're just like wild teens doing, you know, what they do.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. And then so you take that and then you apply it to what we have now, where I feel like Forces kind of gives itself a label of like, we're telling a serious story now. Just put that in your mind. Boop, serious story. And it keeps, you know, they plaster that all around the game. Serious. This is a serious game. There's fire and stuff everywhere. But they then kind of treat it like a checklist of what they think a serious story entails, and it's not really about telling a story they want to tell, which and then it just happens to be serious, which I feel is what these games were back in the day. You know.
Yeah.
I would love a story, like if the Metal Virus was turned into a game, that would be really cool. That would be a Sonic game.
I think
It's like
so
a story
too.
Written, yeah, it's like,
But
it's a good.
I feel like a
story.
lot of these same people would say that Metal Virus is too dark, and that bothers me because like all it does is create stakes. That's it. It's not like this. Like it's like zombie story influence. So I guess you could be like, oh, you know, I don't know, but like the
Why
Metal
does it
Virus.
have to, why does the Sonic story have to be like one thing? Why can it not?
Well,
be,
the
like,
Metal
these other
Virus is
things?
so cool because it like gives characters stuff to struggle with
Yeah.
and think about. Like where Sonic can, like, he has the virus on him and he can stave it off by running really fast, but then you get stuff like, well, he can't run. You realize he can't just keep running forever.
He's challenged.
And he has to rely on other people to help him because he's infected and he can't touch people. Like it's just, that's all I want is stuff where like characters have to struggle with something and there's a threat to them that they have to solve together as characters that they can. Like, I can see the Metal Virus being turned into a really cool game. Maybe you'd have to
Same.
change some stuff around because it's like, it was created for like a comic, so it's not like it would perfectly translate to a video game. But like, there's a part in the arc where Tails goes to Central City, I think, which is pretty cool. Where he goes to Central City, and he has to go to his workshop, and like, the town's crawling with the zombified Metal Virus people.
He has the mech, right?
And he whips out his fucking mech.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna get this. It feels like he has purpose. I could see a stage where he's going through trying to get the cure for the Metal Virus, you know? And it's just so that it doesn't have to be like everyone's infected. It's not necessarily it has to be that, but it's like that story has actual stakes where the characters can shine and have struggles and work together towards a common goal. And it's just a cool story to tell where like there are many times reading the Metal Virus where it kind of threw me for a loop and I was kind of like, I kind of wonder how these guys are going to get out of this one. So it made me happy.
The only thing
Sonic has not made me
like,
that happy in a long time.
The only thing I didn't really like about that arc was how Shadow was treated, but that's about it.
Well, Shadow sucks in the entire book, so
Yeah.
it's kind of just its own problem.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they wrote him out pretty quickly,
Yeah.
so he didn't have to speak. Which I don't know if this is a conspiracy or not. I don't want to go too off topic, but like, I really think that Ian Flynn did that intentionally because he didn't want to write Shadow, so he just immediately was like, "We're gonna write you out of the story, so you don't have to speak anymore or
Because
do
he
anything."
knows that like he can't write Shadow the way that he's supposed to be written because Sega. Like, he literally said that. Sega said Shadow has to be this thing.
Why does it have to be this way?
So, yeah.
It wasn't this way in SA2. They
Yeah.
just did whatever they wanted. And that game didn't damage the brand. I mean, I guess you could say Shadow the Hedgehog did, but that has nothing to do with what SA2 was doing.
Yeah.
And,
People conflate
you know,
these things so easily. They're like, oh, do you want the franchise to end up like Shadow? And I'm like, how do those things equate? How do you, like, conflate SA2
Right.
with Shadow the Hedgehog?
right after SA2, they make Heroes. So what? If they just kept making these games and they all like were like Heroes story, would you say, well, what? You want it to become like this? That's what SA2 did. And it's like, no, it doesn't. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's not like SA2 is just the natural endpoint is getting to Shadow, because it's not true. And really, even going back to the classic games, those games, I think that a lot of what makes those, like, it's pretty simple stories, really. But what made it endearing to people, even back then, is the characters, and how, like, in Sonic 2, it's pretty much Eggman's doing his thing again, but this time he's got grander ambitions, and he made a Death Star. Now, the Death Star is not why you like the story. It's not like Sonic prides itself on the idea that it just apes off other things, because when Tails takes Sonic over to Wing Fortress, and then his plane gets shot down, and then in the end he comes up and saves him from falling, or not if he goes super. It's really heartwarming to people, and that kind of forever cemented the character as the wingman, you know. And there's Knuckles' whole arc in Sonic 3. And I just saw the adventure games as more of that, but in much grander scope.
Yeah.
It you know, it doesn't really have...
It is a dog show outside. Everybody's barking.
It doesn't have to do with any particular, like, this is or is not what Sonic is. Because frankly, if SA2 isn't what Sonic is, what is it? Is it literally just they go stop Eggman from making a new Death Star? Well, I would argue that they kind of did that, because he pulled out the Space Colony arc, which kind of looks like him, you know? And it's I think there's so many facets of this game that they would later even, you know, try to replicate. The whole dynamic between Sonic and Shadow is so iconic, because the character appears enough in the hero side to where you really feel like he's this rival that Sonic wants to beat. And they do this with Jet. They do this with Silver. They try to do this with Infinite. And I guess they do it with Blaze as well, maybe. You know, it's something about... It's really basic stuff, honestly, but
I think
you
it's
can kinda
done
see
best
where
with
there's...
Shadow and Jet.
Mm-hmm. The framework kind of was there. And Sonic, in the first place, the character, was a big part of his whole marketing in the 90s, you know. So I think it's really pretty simple, honestly, to see why a lot of people like the story of SA2, and it's not about any crappy labels, you know.
Yeah.
It is, obviously, because we grew up with it, though. I'm gonna, you know, just throw that in there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so when oh my god, since we already brought this up, when I see that people are trying to just dispel all debate about how the characters should be, or how the world should be, it's not like I'm asking for something super specific that is like borderline fan fiction. It's like literally I'm just asking that the characters feel consistent enough and that the world feels consistent enough. They can take whatever liberties they want and make whatever new story they want to tell, but at heart, I want it to still feel like the same series. And while I just don't think it does, and it's perfectly okay to not think that, when I can take the whole entirety, every Sonic cutscene in SA2, and compare that to every Sonic cutscene in Lost World or Forces, and just say that these don't feel like they carry the same weight with these characters. And it's just, it just annoys me to no end that people try to take well, there's technically this little line that's kind of similar to what Sonic says in this game, so therefore it's exactly the same, and you should stop having these silly debates about how the character is portrayed, because it's not important, and stop trying to, impose your martial law
Also,
on the Sonic
I feel like I need to say that I'm not necessarily saying every Sonic story needs high stakes necessarily, because I could see a rewritten Sonic Colors working pretty well for me, where it's just Eggman decided to make an amusement park, and he's extracting. I actually kind of appreciate Sonic Colors as sort of an homage to how Sonic used to open capsules and shit, where the Wisps are a new kind of version of that, where I don't mind every once in a while when Eggman just does something he makes an amusement park, but he's still doing evil stuff you have to stop, and it's kind of a self-contained narrative. It's more the fact that that's all we usually get that really annoys the hell out of me.
Well, it's the idea that that's what it should be.
Yeah, that too
that's
is
the thing that annoys me.
Yeah.
And it's well, it's not inherently that serious stories are wrong, because obviously a lot of people have a really huge fondness for SA2 where they don't 06. How could you explain that under the guise of just, well, this is clearly what's wrong with trying to tell a story?
Yeah.
I don't, and even
I could see that. It's just weird because I could see a version of because in a lot of ways Heroes feels like the kind of the not as high stakes. Eggman still wants to destroy the world or whatever, but it's not as immediately high stakes as SA2 is, where it's just kind of this action packed thrill ride. For Heroes is a lot more about the stages and the some of the character interactions, and I think that's fine. I don't think every game needs to be SA2, but I think every game should at least try to make the characters interesting.
Absolutely. I feel like that should be the bare minimum. I mean, I think the characters should react to the story that they're in. I don't think
there's
that's a
the
hard thing
saying
to ask.
that even the most basic story can be interesting if the characters can sell it, and I think Sonic embodies that to a T. Heroes is for most of the game's runtime, it is basically just, hey, Eggman's gonna conquer the world, go stop him. Gets a bit more complex later on. Yeah. And that's fine to me, because most of the characters, pretty much generally people act as I feel that they do in SA2. And I like them, It's not that Colors framework is bad, it's just that I think that the way they went about it is a bit too...
I can imagine a version of Colors where the dialogue isn't as intensely jokey.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a I don't know, because it's a lower stakes kind of game where but if it was Sonic and Tails that felt kind of like the SA2 versions of them, or at least even just any other variant around that time, I think it would have worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And there's pieces of that with the DS version, and how that's a lot less jokey. It's a bit more on the bland side because you're not really watching cutscenes, and you know, but and it's still kind of an idiot plot of like Eggman's doing good and everyone, you know, but
Yeah.
it's still like okay, whatever, you know. It's a lot less offensive to me than it's not really like super offensive with colors, but you know, I'm not really amused with any of these cutscenes really, like I would be before, because
Because if you think about it, the cutscenes are just, they almost feel like they shouldn't exist because most of them are just like Sonic's telling a joke before he fights the boss.
Yeah.
So
it's
it makes me question why some of them are even in the game.
Yep. I feel like at least in Sonic Adventure and stuff like that, if you made a joke before fighting a boss, then it at least served more of a purpose because it told something else before. Or
Well, there was a back and forth, like before Sonic and Shadow fought, they had an argument.
yeah.
Well, I guess it's less like an argument, more like a playful banter.
Yeah,
Because
but
I
that
genuinely
also
think
serves
over
to
the
build
course,
up the rivalry between the two
Yeah.
characters and make you interested in Shadow for when you play.
by the
Dark
end of
Story.
SA2, when Sonic and Shadow are running down the strip, I think that they both genuinely like each other at that point. Like, I think maybe not Shadow
they
towards
have
Sonic
they definitely have a
necessarily, but
respect
like,
for each other.
I think Sonic genuinely is like, Shadow's pretty cool. I think,
Maybe,
you know, there's like a respect there.
there's definitely a respect between the two of them, but Shadow's also like, I can no longer allow you to live. I'm gonna kill you now.
there's like a mutual like okay,
Yeah.
all
That's
right,
what I'm saying.
you got
is
some
there's
you know,
like a,
yeah.
Yeah.
they sort of grew on
calling
each other
them
in a way.
imposter and fakers to then like, oh, you're more than I thought you were. You're actually pretty good at this stuff. I don't know how you.
Well,
use
I
gas
do.
control with
It's
that.
kind of like how Vegeta and Goku are like. Vegeta would never ever say that he likes Goku, but you know, there's a respect there. You
Yeah,
know,
for
there's
sure.
like, I respect that you are like kind of an equal to me,
Clearly
and that's built up throughout the
Goku-
game, and you can feel it.
Goku's like still worth Vegeta's time, and Vegeta's still like thinking like, you know, and it's kind of the same thing with Sonic and Shadow, where like at the end of a game, Shadow's just not even like okay, he's like all right, so it seems like you're kind of like the real deal, Sonic, so let's just end this, you know, before you make some trouble for me. And Sonic is just like okay, you know, Shadow's probably, you know, the most direct opponent I've ever had
Yeah.
compared, you know, because Metal Sonic just you know, lost, and so it's just a really cool thing for, and this applies to all three pairs of characters.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes me, you know, hurt on the inside when people say that it's the same thing. You're just nostalgic for it over the years, when in Forces, the scene before the final boss is like the only thing that's going to happen is that you'll be sitting in a busted pile of robot parts, thinking about how you failed so badly. It's like there's no grand feeling. It just feels like, especially for what the tone that the game is trying to go with, you know. And in SA2, there's like this something of a respect when Eggman seems to clearly have the upper hand against Sonic. Sonic's like, you know, he's trying his best to stop his scheme. So he's like, "Oh, you've turned into a big time villain, Doctor." And there's just this moment where it's like, "Yeah, we're joking around, but like, this is clearly kind of an intense scenario."
Yeah, but he's not just joking around, but he's also like bluffing, like, I don't really care about the situation because I have this like emerald, but it's still like a really good interaction. It's not just like joking around for the sake of joking around. It's in context of something that's a little bit bigger.
And then when Eggman traps him in the capsule, it's like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is really, really bad.
Well, it's one. You know what's one of those things that you just in your head. It's like not necessarily like it doesn't like you think Sonic and Eggman as like the hero villain dynamic duo, right? At
Mhm.
least in terms of Sonic, that's what people probably immediately jump to.
Yep.
But like the fact that SA1 and 2 both really sell Tails and Eggman as a rivalry is pretty impressive to me even to this day.
Yeah, it's
That
cool.
like and it makes me realize that Eggman and Tails have a lot of similarities. It's just that Tails is a nice person, you know? Or like they're both pretty like tech focused and smart.
Yeah. One will use their knowledge for good, one will use their knowledge for
Yeah.
gain in, money, the world, power.
And it's one of those things where I think Meikawa or whoever else is writing probably had a moment where they're like, "Oh, that really does like these two really kind of are good to play off each other in terms of a rivalry." So
The part in the ending that always gets me so kind of emotional is the part where Eggman's telling Tails about how he felt about Gerald,
Yeah, that's a nice moment.
and it's like, it's there. I feel like these games were adding to these characters, and I don't know. Like,
I don't think the games have really added to the characters to a substantial degree since this game.
yeah,
So
like maybe Shadow, but it's not like Gun's even a part of the series anymore, so that's kind of out the window.
yeah,
like
I mean,
he-
06 was awesome for Shadow, but other than that,
hmm
Shadow.
It's
Shadow
like-
died at the end of SA. I mean, I don't. Apparently, he didn't, but
And man, it's even like it's part of the story. It feels like it's part of the music. It feels like it's part of like the gameplay and the stages and how Sonic it feels like Shadow has like sort of a darker version of Sonic stages and stuff like that. And I guess it's kind of how it was in Riders as well, where there's always this theme of opposites, but also how they attract in this game. And it seems pretty basic on paper, but I just don't I don't know many games that do it like this one.
yeah. Did we want to get into how the lore of the past games adds a little bit more to Sonic and Shadow's backstory? Because I think that while it's not, explicitly stated that they're closer than the game leads on, I think that it's definitely really cool if you go into it. Because obviously this,
Do elaborate.
the stuff about, the 3K mural and how Gerald was literally made Angel Island to harness the power of the K. Like, he was clearly at, Lost World and stuff like that, and made the entire core of the arc based off of that. I feel like that's pretty cool. And then the Shadow is just like a hedgehog that has the same spike formation as Supersonic for some reason. Shadow calls Sonic the ultimate life form for some reason at the end of the final hazard.
It's I've actually thought about this. I've thought well, you can make the argument that 06 is kind of like, Adventure 3, but you wonder in the alternate universe where just these games never stopped feeling like the adventure games. You kind of wonder, well, what exactly makes these Adventure 1 and 2? Because Adventure 2's story isn't exactly even following up on a direct plot thread from 1. But it's
Right.
interesting that if you play 1, there's just really small things like Tails getting the emerald from Station Square. Or
when fucking even when I was a kid, when Knuckles started saying the shit from SA1 at the end of the game.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
I was like, holy fuck. That was like one of those moments where I'm like, damn, that's an SA1 thing. Because he's an echidna. And that was really cool.
he actually
And you go
studied up on
down-
his lore a little bit, even though in SA1 he said he wanted to stay ignorant to it.
you go down the slide from Lost World
Yeah, which
that
is just
Gerald
in
clearly
the-
built.
Yeah, that it's just in the core of the arc for some reason. Well,
He's kind of weird.
I love the way that the core builds up, just the arc in general as a piece. Like how when you go to it, it's just like dead and desolate, and then you see it all lit up and powered up with the Chaos Emeralds in it. Then you go into like the beautiful like purple and oranges of the core. Into,
I know you
like...
spend a lot of time in the arc, and it can kind of get a little tiring seeing the same look for a while, but I think it's really cool looking, the arc itself.
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty iconic location. This like kind of space city in a way. And just there's a lot of mystery in this place. I feel like there's like
it feels like a lot more of its own place than the Death Egg, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Or the Death Egg really just feels like I don't know.
Well, you know, and they also go into the details about like what this place is for. Yeah. Whereas the Death Egg, we don't. I assume it has a laser. I don't know. That's kind of what I would be led to believe from Star Wars, but like.
I wish there was a timeline where we got more like detailed backstory of what happened with Shadow and Shadow the Hedgehog instead of like the black aliens. Like where they actually went into detail about like maybe why Shadow is so much like Sonic, like how you go from a giant bio lizard thing that maybe is referencing Chaos, who knows, to Shadow that is a hedgehog for some reason. Whereas in Shadow the Hedgehog, it's like, yes, I took the DNA of Black Doom, and also you're the cure for this, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think. That's a good idea. I may want to write that down. Like, because it's interesting. You could like everyone's made like the analogy to the Hidden Palace mural and stuff, and just looked at the greater implications of Gerald making artificial chaos and stuff like that.
Yeah, and stuff like that too. Like he makes the artificial chaos. Yeah,
and.
Yeah.
When you put it like that, I really think that there is an alternate timeline where they make a Shadow of a Hedgehog that goes more into that stuff rather than making it about like, by the way, Gerald met with a space alien named Black Doom.
Oh, and that's why the Eclipse Cannon was made, just for when the comet comes back around, so we can destroy it.
I think I would have rather they revealed, because that's one question from SA2 that is genuinely just not really explained exactly. Like you can make arguments either way about what you think it is, but you don't know why there's an Eclipse Cannon in the first place. And Shadow of a Hedgehog could like really make this interesting sort of case where as Shadow's trying to, and this is why I don't have a problem with the amnesia plot. I think there is an interesting story you can tell with the idea that Shadow is looking to try and figure out stuff about his past. And so in the end of the day, he could find out even more than, he would otherwise feel inclined to look at. And I guess that's what Shadow of a Hedgehog is, but I think it sucks.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if it built up more, if it took more of the stuff that like the games before were actually building on, instead of this like really weird plot point that that half the game is about, then it probably would have been a lot better. Like the stuff about
helps
Sonic.
to have like I know people would say that like it doesn't like it's a Sonic game, so it doesn't really matter, but I think it's nice to have a consistent you have consistent world building, even if it's just stuff like artificial chaos being a reference to Chaos himself, or like the Lost World parallels, or the stuff in SA1 that's moved over to SA2. You can feel that they're building off each other without needing to know, because the stories are self-contained still, where you can just like I played SA2 before I played SA1. And even if I had never played SA1, I still love SA2 because it's its own story. But then if you play SA1, you're like, oh, this is a cool aspect of the world I didn't know about, this previous story that happened. Or like, I think they could have just kept doing stuff like that,
I agree.
Like little stuff. You don't even need to directly address it all the time. Just like little connective tissue that makes it known, like, yeah, they're still, it's just future events happening in the same world,
Like Heroes does it a little bit with the copying chaos data is one thing. I really like that from Heroes. I
Mhm.
think that's cool.
And the fact that that's something that I just think is sorely missing. Little details like that, where Metal Sonic gets chaos data from Froggy and the Chao, and it's like most normal people wouldn't think about why that is and how he can do that. And like,
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I didn't really actively think about that.
mhm.
The ones you know. it's
Later
like,
on,
oh,
I sort of
that's really
noticed
cool.
the parallels there, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why it couldn't have just kept doing stuff like that, you know, just subtle things that aren't like in your face, but you'll notice and appreciate, you know?
Yeah, I don't need every game to be exactly here's our official sequel to the Arc events all the time, you know?
Yeah.
There could be so much that they can do of Sonic, and that's why I think Sonic is a really special series, because I think the nature of what it is certainly gives it rules of what it should be doing, but there's still a lot they can do. And shit, I had a
But
point.
that's
and
why
it's gone.
it feels troubling to me that they've dropped a lot of this stuff, but they're just so willing to keep like wisps around for no reason. Like
and Zavok. Yeah.
they decide they're gonna keep this stuff around, but they've completely scrapped all this like other stuff that used to exist, and I don't know
like
where
the Chaos
like
Emeralds. Why are the Chaos Emeralds like not important at all? So like.
yeah. Well, I know people complain that like Sonic games you can't turn into Super Sonic in the stages anymore, and they were made them into like final boss stuff.
Oh,
Which
that
I
reminds
get.
me, I'm really sad that they
But-
couldn't fit in like Super Sonic and Super Shadow in the multiplayer like they wanted to.
Yeah,
Just remnants of that.
but I think it made more sense from a storytelling perspective to have the Chaos Emeralds be this big like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just meant in the multiplayer after, like in 180.
Well, I wasn't really addressing that. I think
okay.
I was more so addressing the people who think that it's like a big disappointment that they save them till the end of the game. I mean, I think you could just as easily make it so that you can turn into Super Sonic in the levels and have a big final boss where you turn into Super Sonic. Like,
Yeah.
I think you can have both. I mean,
Generations did it.
fucking, yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
But I
Sonic
think it's
3
kind
and
of weird that
Knuckles,
I get that like not every story has to end turning into Super Sonic, but it is kind of weird that they just seem really hesitant to do that now. I don't know.
I mean, like in Colors, I think it's kind of cool that they don't.
Yeah.
Which I like the Nega Wisp mother fight fine enough in the DS version, but like it's kind of a neat sort of chill, low stakes story like that, just fighting Eggman like the good old days. But and Lost World, sure, fine. But I really believe that a story like Forces, logically the characters would think to bust these babies out. I think it's this incredible like precognitive.
Well, it's literally end of the world stakes. Like,
yeah.
in Colors, it's just Eggman's like kind of being a dick, harvesting energy from wisps. Sonic can handle it on his own. He doesn't really need the emeralds, but
Well, he's gonna harness the energy from the wisps to like mind control people of Earth. I think.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I guess it's not really like a time dependent like. It's not like because in Forces like the sun is about to descend on the Earth or whatever like.
Oh my god.
And they need to deal with that pretty quickly.
That
so
was so
not going
weird.
super is pretty weird.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm
Dude,
gonna
like, who-
make the
like,
sun
I don't
hit
know
the earth
why-
now.
I don't know why people in that story are like don't think to use the fucking Chaos Emeralds, even though they can turn super and deal with it.
No, it needed to be DLC. Don't you remember? Where you pay for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the prequel comic they made up for it, which I'm convinced was totally an afterthought. Eggman in that comic, they try to like work in some explanation for why he doesn't just go grab the Master Emerald since he's so powerful. He just says he doesn't need it. So you would think that'd be his downfall, even though that's such a stupid thing for him to say. But no, that's not a thing in the game. They just don't even think to use the emeralds. And it's I get the perspective that, all right, after SA1 and SA2 and 3 and Knuckles, actually, when we just let's add that there, and Heroes
and Shadow and 06.
Yeah, I
Unleashed.
understand the idea that it's a little tiring now that we just get to the end of a game and everyone puts their hands together and we go super and then fight the god monster. I get it. But it has got to a point where it is now equally, if not more, of a cliche that we just go fight Eggman, who is being bad for real this time.
Dude, I could not believe that was actually what happened in Forces at the end. I was.
I know you end up going super in Unleashed, but I think all you really need to do is have an explainer like at the beginning of Unleashed, where all the energy is drained out of the emeralds and you can't use them. That's all you need to do, and then you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of difference in context between these games too, that there isn't in newer ones where it feels like they have like a rule that you have to go fight Eggman, and preferably in a Nega-Wisp fashion where you run forward.
Oh yeah. It's like,
and it's I don't know. It's just I don't really know who's by forces who's like really like, oh man, this is so epic, when I don't know, I think plenty of people really do remember the ending of SA2 for just how much of a standout moment.
Well, imagine I don't understand the point of building up Infinite so that he can get jobbed by Eggman. I just don't really get the point of that.
I think at best case scenario between the two, that they should be working together.
Yeah.
Not Eggman just turns lame.
I never really liked Infinite too much with how they built him up. I want to be I guess he has an inferiority complex, and that's his whole thing. And then at the end, he loses 3 times in a row, and then he gets taken to a tower. Right? What?
Well, imagine it wouldn't fix the game by any means, but just imagine if you fought Infinite as the final boss. It would do something. It's just legitimately jarring that you fight him, and then he gets taken out, and then Eggman's like, oh, but you still gotta fight me.
Yeah, I
It's
never
really weird.
understood that. His inferiority complex should have come to its absolute peak in a final fight or something like that, where he gathers as much power as he can, maybe from the, say it with me now, the Chaos Emeralds or something like that, and then he becomes something else, and you fight him would have been way more interesting than what we got. I don't know.
I think that's really the key, is that in SA2 and SA1 and 3 Knuckles, it's it doesn't matter how serious the game is. It's just a standout conclusion. And in Heroes, that's a really more lighthearted game. But I feel something with the ending, and
Yeah.
and even kind of in colors.
06
too.
has a decent ending. I feel like it's like Craftus was saying right here in chat, that it feels like a natural progression to how they should have handled the supersonic boss.
Yeah, well, I like that everybody has to go through these demented places to get emeralds, and then
yeah,
because I do like the hero's final stuff, but I kind of wish that there was a stage that you played at least, not just a boss. But in 06 it was pretty cool, where you got to go through the end of the world, and there's a unique music track, and you got to get the emeralds and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just
Kind
cool.
of feels like what SA1 could have been, basically.
Yeah. And really, that final boss is playing as all 3 characters and cycling between them is pretty fucking epic.
Yeah. You have to beat him in the past, present, and future, which is a theme throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
There's a lot about O6 that I like on a conceptual level.
Yeah, but yeah, same.
It's just, I don't know. I feel like I've talked a lot about the series, but it actually has so much to do with what precedent SA2 kind of set for me in terms of how, because I feel like in terms of any of these games with like a last story segment, it doesn't quite get as good as it did with SA2,
Yeah,
where they had all
I would
these
agree with
characters
that.
come together. They had this final level where everyone teams up and it's pretty decently long level. But Shadow's not teaming up. So then you get that cutscene, or maybe where he finally has like a change in judgment. Yeah. And then you have him go fight a boss. He gets a whole boss to himself. And it's really cool.
Has some sick ass music.
Yeah. And it's also like the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah.
And it, made little old me mad. But and it's just this cool moment when Sonic and Knuckles are there. These two are like the cool duo that everyone knows from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. These two are like really like the kind of the popular characters. So when this new guy, this new Shadow comes strolling in, we're like, whoa, shit, he's coming to help us now. And it's like,
Dude, I love the camera in that scene, right? When he's just like slowly walking with that music, and then the camera's like, I fucking love that scene.
He turns around and just tells him to go, and it's like, that's so cool. It literally is a Dragon Ball-esque moment, and honestly, since it's been there since like Sonic 2 with the Super Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that like. It does have Dragon Ball parallels, which they've admitted in interviews that they're inspired by it, for sure.
I think Sonic, to me, I don't really watch anime much, but to me, it is fun, and I guess that's what's like. It stops feeling like lighthearted arcs or something when we have these games, and it starts to feel more like we just don't really care about the universe the same way we would if it were like a show, because we don't really see it as a universe or a story or anything. And I think there really was one for a long time there.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I guess that really is a big reason why Sonic has appeal to me that a lot of other franchises don't, is that I feel very attached to the characters, even even if I know that it's not going to be exactly what I want.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so before we wrap up on story, I wanted to briefly go over how the story is structured, because I think it's very good. I think the game expects you to play hero story first, though it's not like necessary for you to do so. And I think hero story works enough on its own as a good story, but then you can go into dark story to get a lot more context, and I feel like that you have incentive to do so with being the first game that you can ever play as Eggman. You really want to play as Shadow. And I mean, I don't know if people wanted to play as Rouge, but I did. So
I know I did.
Yeah. So there's that, and then that gives way more context for stuff that's happening in the background, and that perfectly builds up towards the last story. Like Dark, I feel like the order that you're supposed to play it in, quote unquote, is Hero Dark last, and I feel like that's a really good structure. Like last story, just finishing things up with a neat little bow on a very somber note. It's definitely very good. Do you guys agree with like that story structure, or would you rather see it done in a separate way?
I think it's just a neat little evolution on how what SA1 tried to do.
Yeah, I like
That's
it a
how
lot.
I've always seen it.
I mean, you can play hero first, but I kind of like the idea that they give you to pick the option to pick dark.
When I was a kid, I did. I played
because
Dark
the
first,
idea
yeah.
on the back of a box is like, oh, pick your side, and if you pick Dark first, there's that little warning at the end there, but it basically looks like they've won, and it's kind of cool. Now you might not really. I feel like it carries more meaning to see the dark side after playing Hero, and it's probably the intended order. They open the game up with City Escape compared to opening up with Iron Gate, which if you're really into Eggman, that's cool and all, but it's there's kind of a reason why Sonic Riders pretty much made you play Hero first and Babylon next.
Yeah.
For this, it's kind of the same exact structure, and I like having the option, but it's really, I feel like this game is a slimmed down version of what they were trying to do with SA1 with these multiple perspectives, and it's very unique. Don't think I've seen anything quite like it. I really like parts like how Rouge is like checking in with the president, when you can actually see that in the Hero story where the secretary says, oh, we're receiving a call from our agent.
Little stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
It feels like they really care about details like that in these games.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like, I like how Heroes kind of tried to do it again, but it didn't really succeed as well because of how it's structured. But I guess I like the idea of there being different stories to play, even if it's I don't even have a problem going back with 06, how there are characters, as long as those 3 characters are varied enough in their stories that it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just like the structure of having different stories that go on at the same time, because it's kind of hard to imagine multiple playable characters working super well, and it could work in one structured linear story. It's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I understand why they do it this way.
Where you just plop between different characters. It's kind of, I think there's kind of a reason they didn't do that to begin with,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed the story structure of SA2 and what it pulled off there. I guess we can briefly go over the presentation. I feel like there are a few times, there are a few things in Sonic Adventure 2's presentation that obviously could have been done better, but at the time it was there's nothing really to compare to until after it. So it's really hard to say. It's the part of me that does wish that the game got remade, but there's another part of me that says there's no way I'm ever trusting Sega to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I always say with presentation is that you can go ahead and compare it to the Crash and Spyro games on PS1, and how they're presented a lot better. But at the same time, for one, they're not dealing with localization on our end.
They're also not even close to the scale of the story.
Right. The story is, for a platformer, greater than any of these other ones. And games with stories to this scale that aren't platformers are like RPGs, which have text boxes, or it's like Metal Gear, which I don't really know much about, but it's clearly not animated, like these.
A lot of Metal Gear is codec calls. There are cool cutscenes and stuff, but
yeah. And it's in 2001 we got DMC, and we got Halo, we got MGS2.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff after. There's stuff that was in development for a technology that was a little bit stronger than the Dreamcast, but before SA2, there wasn't anything that was actually out on a consumer base.
And by the time they're developing the game, it's not to say that these are great things, but I really can't hold things over SA2 that hard, because
me neither.
At the time, I don't really like to be someone who's oh, well, for its time, so clearly you have to like it,
Yeah, no, I think you need a balance of those two.
Well,
Like, you
I
cannot,
think the
like...
time where you can make that argument pretty easily is graphical quality, because that's like
Mhm.
literally like they could not have done better than they did.
Yep.
And by the time of '06, then yeah, I think that's like pretty inexcusable, you know.
Yeah.
But for
I-
SA2, it was, and the reason why so many people just grew up with it and didn't really have they didn't really look at this and go like, oh my god, this is like so embarrassing. Look at how much better these other games are. It's because for a while there just weren't a lot of games telling stories that were this big and had this good of character animation and stuff, or this much of it, I should say. And yeah, I don't know, for like presentations, like I really just wish the translation was better,
Yeah.
honestly. I guess I'd rather that than directly changing the translation to be more hip with the kids, but like,
Yeah,
I think a lot of the presentation problems are really not exactly something where I'm like, oh man, what the hell are they thinking? I can kind of see the logical fallout,
Yeah, I know we got into this a bit before the podcast because we were talking about the retranslated mod, but like localization is important so things flow better in English. But there are a few things that make a lot more sense in the like direct Japanese translations, and I wish we got more of a balance between those two things with this game. It's unfortunate that we didn't.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt when I was playing retranslated before this
Yeah.
whole diddly do.
Other than that, obviously, there are a few cutscenes that I think are like presented kind of strangely, like when Shadow goes to save Rouge and stuff like that. Though I know the battle port updated it from the Dreamcast because it was actually worse on the Dreamcast. And
I
then
didn't know
obviously-
this for a long time, but the cutscene where Rouge is questioning Shadow and is like, your memories might not even be real. I didn't know this forever, but the Dreamcast version may just play Fly in the Freedom the whole time.
Yeah,
and
the music doesn't change.
That's so weird to me.
I love the silence before the music changes and stuff like that in the battle port. The battle port definitely has some really good changes. Just break some stuff too. Oh, God, can we just get like the perfect version of the game, please? That'd be good. And the last thing I want to get into before we do closing statements, if we want to get into it, was just like a brief segment on the Chao Gardens, because they're a big part of the game. But like some people don't even like really think about the Chao when it comes to this game. But I think for so many people, they spent so many hours playing the Chao Garden and going back into these stages that already like lend themselves so well to replayability that the Chao world just further accentuates that because of the fact that it asks you to go back into them and explore for animals and get chaos drives and get to know them better as well.
I think it's just such an easy way to extend the game's playability.
Yeah.
I don't really like it as much as I did when I was a kid, but I think I just don't really like that kind of stuff in general. Like, we have to spend a lot of time to like grow things, and like those kinds of games I've just grown out of a lot. But
Yep.
The Chao Gardens clearly are like this extra thing you can do when you're doing missions and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of a cool thing that's part of its identity too.
It's so
That
expansive.
a lot of people like. Yeah, there's a lot of depth to it if you're willing to get into it.
Yeah, it just built up upon itself from Sonic Adventure in a really great way that I can appreciate.
SA2 just has like a lot of content, It's like it's got all these other missions, and then while you're doing those missions, you're incentivized to just keep doing them and then keep training your Chao while you do so.
Yeah,
And so I don't really play Chao Garden these days mainly because it basically becomes the grind. But you know, when you're a kid, that just was like your whole world. You go to school because that's what you have to do, and then it's like, well, I don't have to do anything else other than maybe some chores when I get home, ideally. So I'm gonna sit here and train my little boobah, and then, you know, it's like a real fucking quest to get 180 emblems in this game and finally get Green Hill. And you feel like the coolest kid in school if you get like a Chaos Chao without hacking. You know? And so I think it's kind of a no-brainer why the Chao Garden became so like fondly remembered, especially because it's like, it's not exactly like it has no depth. It's got like a whole encyclopedia about how it works, and it's insane that they developed this and the rest of the game
Going
in
into
such
the Chao Island forums as a kid and like learning all this stuff and printing it out so I can bring it upstairs to like look at while raising my Chao and stuff like that. Nowadays, I can't really revisit the Chao Garden unless I have mods on to make it less grindy, like where I can just keep the chaos drives and stuff like that. But back when I was a kid, it didn't really matter. I could sit there for 5 hours raising Chao and playing City Escape or whatever other levels I wanted to do, and then leaving the GameCube on overnight, like for the Chao to age or like evolve, because I couldn't stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a huge part of the game, but yeah.
It's something that the question always pops up of like, why don't they bring the Chao Garden back? And I kind of wonder if it's possible for them to develop a Chao Garden for every single, like, you know, major game. You know, it's kind of a I don't know. It's a feature that a lot of people really want, but it's kind of clear to see that it's probably a pretty big investment to really.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I sympathize, but I would much rather they not spend their time on that.
Yeah, the development time is already strained enough to.
It's such an iconic thing, but it's like, I mean, I think they should maybe make like to satiate fans. They could. I've never understood why they couldn't make like a Chao Garden like game, or like maybe even if it's like a mobile thing.
I think the reason, okay, maybe mobile, but like regular, I feel like
like not like a full release, but I think like it's perfect for like a mobile kind of release is maybe more what I'm trying to say.
I would like if at least for one game, but here's the problem with this, is like if you do it for one game, then you're going to have the expectation set for the next, which is why I think they don't do this. Not to mention their development times are already strained to get what we got in like Forces. But like if they just had one game that had a really good Chao Garden and they made a Chao Garden app where you can send your Chao to the app in the same way that you could send it to a Game Boy Advance or your VMU on the Dreamcast, to bring back that functionality and bring it on the go and train it there. That
would be pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, because it would like call back to what you used to do in the Chao Garden, right? So even if it was like just one and you could have them on your phone too, I feel like that'd be cool.
Because I feel like part of a reason why the Chao Garden, oh my god, this is another topic. The idea that like, well, you only like the adventure games because of a Chao Garden, like. Yeah, but you realize that for the Chao Garden to work, you have to play the game, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think they don't have a game just Chao Garden, because like you kind of have to do something to raise those Chao. So either they need to make a mobile game and incorporate, you know, mobile game stuff into that, you know, like walking around in the real world, or maybe they make some connectivity to whatever the new Sonic game is, which that'd be kind of a cool thing, like an ongoing Chao service, and they could just connect to the new games and stuff. Or maybe they could have made like a 3DS app. That would have been kind of fun. But I think a lot of the reason why the Chao Gardens were working in the first place was just because they were an extension of what you could do in these games.
Yeah, it
It's
goes
a pretty
back into
tricky
the
scenario.
replayability and exploration and getting to know the levels better that I think the Chao Garden actually helps with.
Mm-hmm.
Outside
And it
of
really
the
makes the
missions,
game
too.
feel a lot bigger. It's not to say the game isn't big to begin with, but when you have this Chao Garden thing, it's like, oh, that kind of makes it seem like it's really got content, you know, right up there with Zelda or something. There's just a lot. You're going to be playing this game,
Not
you
to
know, when you're
mention-
younger for ages.
Not to mention the other missions themselves also force you to like explore more and learn other paths throughout the levels, which therefore are going to make you better at them and understand the levels more in the long run. So that also helps.
When I was a kid, I had a strategy guide for SA2 and Sonic Advance, and it like, you know, had a whole. It was very nice. It looked beautiful, and I had like lists of animals and where they were in the stages, and it was just so cool. I could learn about the knowledge of exactly what animals and how many they place in these levels, and you can like whistle in hidden pipes or hidden locations and stuff. And it's just, there's so much stuff that they pack into this game that you never think about. And I feel like that, you know, that's one way to lend it, that exploration that you're kind of seeking in a Sonic game. Yeah.
So before we go into closing statements, do we have anything to add about the Chao Garden that we haven't already said?
Not really.
All right.
I love them.
I do. They are very cute.
I don't know how they actually even made these things as cute as they are.
The only real thing I have to say to close is that this was a lot of fun. This is my favorite Sonic game for pretty much every reason that we went over today. And you could go into more details if you really wanted to, but we've talked about this game for now 4 hours, and honestly, it's like scratching the surface. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So you guys can give your closing statements and, you know, tell people where they can find you.
I think Sonic should try as hard as they did with SA2. That has not happened in quite a long time. At least for Sonic Team.
I share that sentiment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. The state of Sonic right now is pretty sad.
And it doesn't have to be a SA3.
Yep.
Especially because I think there's kind of a loose definition of what that even is. And, you know, I think that it's very clear why this game resonates with people. I think it's not just some statistic on the internet you can just whip up. I think there really is a lot in how the game communicated with its audience, and that's why it's still my favorite. Even though I feel like we've really run through a lot of things that are, you know, flaws with the game that we actually like really, you know, could see them improve in a later game. And that's why Adventure 2 is like, it's like my favorite one, but it's really, to say it's my favorite game carries the connotation, but it's like perfect. And well, I just think in a perfect world that it'd be far from that. We would have a new game that is just like, Sonic would just be great, you know.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
just have plenty of SA2s in my, you know, in my mind. But yeah, that's my last stance on SA2. Sorry, I talked a lot.
That's quite okay. So, does anyone else have anything to add?
No, not really.
You can find me at JebTube if you haven't figured it out yet.
JebTube on Twitter and YouTube, and King K on YouTube, and the King of King K on Twitter. Make sure you guys go give them some subs and follows. They're great guys who have great videos. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Juicecast on Sonic Adventure 2. I hope you guys all have a splendid day. Sayonara.
Shadow the Hedgehog.